flames, awaken the power held inside of me, harness resilience through the pain. I'm a warrior.
Self-bio, sleep on checkmate, are you kidding? Michael to the rescue, the blade comes out and he shuts it all down in one fell swoop. Absolutely stomping. Oh, what is that? Haven't even got to the bridge. Backbone!
Warrior, I'm a hurricane like Gloria. I won't fail my times now. Rise of glory, won't back down. I take the pain and I let it out. On the mountaintop, shout it out. Break away, let me demonstrate my mentality. Activate. Oh,
Rampage through the side room. Everybody, massive for Bernard. Catches everybody else.
I'm a warrior.
Gonna look to make it happen, and there it is. Proper. Cannot be stopped.
On the mountaintop, shout it out. Break away, let me demonstrate my mentality. Activate.
Hello and welcome everyone to the this Gator cosplay. I was like, Afro, wait. All right, we got Gator. Sticky Kitty and Gator on the mic. I'm so excited to be joined with Gator for the first time on the mic in the APAC zone, which is the final week of the Summer Showdown qualifiers. Now, Gator, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what's going on over here with your fit?
I'm tired of this no skill. No, sorry, that's Ryan. What would Gator say? I actually don't know. I don't know. But listen, he's going to be doing something. Well, he'll explain in a moment. So best of luck to them in their upcoming games. No, I just thought it'd be funny. I was like, shout out to Atlanta. I just got some merch in the bag. So you know, if you want me to be biased towards a specific team, you know what you do. My allegiances can be bought. I'm very easily swayed. You know, I just need some favors. So you know, go get them, teams. Go get them. None of the APAC teams have reached out, so I'm waiting.
So hard right now, Avril, because when understand, guys, I don't see Avril before this, so I'm hearing Avril talk about how he's in a gator suit, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, he's like dressed up as like somebody, it's an animal from Australia or so. I don't know. They taught us how to run in zigzags here in South Florida, and then he's dressed up as the player. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not what I was expecting. So you know what? I'm excited. This has just hyped me up. All right, Avril, this is how it's gonna start for our first time casting together. I've been lurking in the shadows for a bit, but I've returned after some time to be with one of the best here, as you can see. Avril, actually on this side over here, we're married. So I'm super excited to be joined with you, Avril.
Yeah, look, that's the thing, right? I know you're from Florida, so this will make you feel a bit more comfortable, or maybe not. We live on opposite sides of the planet, so no zigzags here. Let's catch up on where we are for the teams, though, because we are heading to the final week here in APAC, right? All for the entirety of the Overwatch League in the Summer Showdown qualifiers. These are the season standings, so very important you look at where the breakpoints are. Top 3 qualify for the season playoffs. The 4, 5, and 6 positions will go to the play-ins. And then number 7, the bottom team, is going to be eliminated. So every single team is trying to avoid being 7th place right now. Realistically, that battle is being fought between the LA Valiant and the Guangzhou Charge.
And it's so important, too, looking at where the Charge is standing right now, especially in this stage, and this being the last week of the Summer Showdown qualifiers. As we take a look at our current stage standings, the Charge have an opportunity to make sure that they actually get off of that last place in the overall standings. Here you can currently see the stage standings with the Seoul Dynasty and the Shanghai Dragons are quite literally in a different tier themselves, Avril.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They've had an incredible journey so far in this particular stage. Untouched, except for the Dragons losing, I think, the one map to Philadelphia Fusion. 4-0, plus 11, plus 12, both clinched. Both cannot exit from their current positions in the standings. No team can catch up at this stage and overtake. Well, I don't expect them to overtake anyway because they're just that good. So, Soul and Dragon safe. It's Hunters, Charge, Fusion, Spark, Valiant. 5 teams still in the running. Yes, Valiant are still technically in the running. Even at 0 and 4, they are mathematically not eliminated.
That'd be absolutely insane if they can make a comeback like that. It's very close despite what you currently see, even with those top 2 teams sitting right there. But as we take a look at our first series and the first lineup here with the Guangzhou Charge, I'm excited right now, Avril, because we've been seeing Jimmy go crazy. I know you were hyping him up earlier. I know you've been loving this meta. I know for a fact that you have. But it's nice to be able to see the change up from the Charge lineup and how it's really influenced their success in this stage.
Yeah, I think Charge have had their glow-up sort of stage here, right? Because they really struggled earlier in the year in Kickoff Clash, Mid-Season Madness, and those two stages combined, they only got a single match victory, and that actually happened on the opening day versus the LA Valiant. Since then, they've really struggled. They haven't really gotten anything. They made significant lineup changes in between Mid-Season Madness and the Summer Showdown, brought in the fellas from UPA, which is Ultra Prime Academy, the academy team of the Guangzhou Charge, and added firepower with Jimmy, Xerneas, Farway. Xerneas is Yveltal. You got a Predator on this roster as well on the bench, and they've really bolstered the lineup, and they'll be going up against some compatriots today in the Chengdu Hunters, because if you want a bit of lore inputted into the broadcast, in this lobby today, right now, between the Charge and the Hunters, there are 8 members out of 10 that played for the Chengdu Hunters last year in 2021. So in some ways, this is kind of like a Chengdu Hunters internal game where, you know, so much talent has been shared between these two rosters. Jimmy, Yveltal, Farway, they all played on the Hunters last year. Xerneas and Farway's all traded time with Monk and Nisha in that support position. So we have a very, very intricate battle between lots of Chengdu members.
I appreciate the fit from Nisha real quick from the headsets. I like how you made that point, Avro, because then you take a look at what's been going on with the Charge, like we mentioned, with the different players that we have now coming in through the roster. And what we see with the Hunters, I mean, let's say the Hunters happen to lose versus the Charge. We were talking a little bit about this while we were preparing for the series that we have on our hands. They will be playing the Valiant next. And looking at their series, their set score in general, the odds are against them, unfortunately. It's still possible for them to make an insane comeback this weekend, but the odds are against them. So it's good news for the Hunters, even if the worst-case scenario really plays out for this series.
And remember, the scoreline that the teams are going for here that I've been saying for the past couple of weeks in this region, to be safe, to make the top 4, to go into the Summer Showdown tournament, the scoreline you need, in my opinion, is 3-3. 3 wins, 3 losses, right? Anything beyond that is even better, which means you're definitely guaranteed in with a high seeding, but 3-3 is kind of the minimum entry. The only way you could get in with a 2-4 is through a lot of different tiebreakers. So 2-4 is, I would say, mathematically still possible, but it requires a lot of tiebreaker scenarios, which is not comfortable. You don't really want to be in tiebreaker scenarios. 3-3 is safe. It means you don't have to rely on tiebreakers to get in. So when I said earlier that like teams like the Valiant are technically still in the running mathematically, they would have to win both their matches in this upcoming, in this weekend coming through. And they have to play the Dragons after this game, by the way. Not only do they have to win the matches, but with good scorelines as well to get a minimum of 2-4, then have to rely on other factors outside of their control to guarantee a 2-4. Fusion and Spark kind of in the same boat, but they already have the 1 win to back themselves with, so they can get the 2-4 or maybe a 3-3 a lot easier. It's Charge and Chengdu. One of these two teams, after this match, I'm fairly certain is going to clinch, because they will get a minimum of 3 wins, and with a minimum of 3 wins, that should be good enough to make the tournament.
That's why I'm so excited that this is our first series on our hands, because this could really mean a lot right here. Even if we have the expected results of Chengdu being able to take it over Charge and Seoul then later on beating a Philly, it's incredibly important to see where this first series goes for both of these teams, because again, these two teams are actually tied right now in the stage standings. So this means a lot here for our teams. Meanwhile, the Hunters, although they would be playing the LA Valiant next, like we were highlighting before, the Charge, I believe, would be going off against another team there that we have to look forward to, because it's going to be the Spark. And, you know, anything could really happen when it comes to the Spark. That would be going down tomorrow. So that's why you don't want to miss out on any of the action here, but while we jump into our first map.
Yeah, it's a lot of really, really important games coming up this weekend, and, for some of these teams, they've never made a tournament before. I know between these two teams, they've never made a tournament before. This will be a first-time entry this year for either the Charge or Hunters, and again, one of these two teams is going to make it in. This is kind of, I don't know if you want to call it internal script, but this is going to be the very interesting battle between 8 different Chengdu members split across the 2 different teams here. Charge on the upswing, but is it enough to take down the Hunters? Kick off our opening map here, Vicky, on Lijiang.
I'm super excited to see how this plays out between both these teams. Again, former members from the Charge now going in, trying to race already with Jimmy already taking out Nisha. That's already going to be huge here, because he's already going to be behind on that sound barrier to help them engage there too, and to help put them into position. But this is really good news for Charge, as they're going to already be dominating and taking that point first.
Yep, exactly what you want to see. Charge get that early cap. In fact, they kind of win the team fight before the cap is even available. It doesn't look like Hunters will be able to get the respawns in time to contest. Cargo requiring a little bit of healing here. Good news for Hunters, they don't lose all their members. It's not a full team wipe, right? So they haven't sacrificed the maximum amount of ult charge points over towards the Charge. You do have choice 1 of 46 ahead of Jinmu by a reasonable amount, but no one else is really just climbing away at the moment.
We're talking about it before, especially looking at where the Genjis are placed. It's about looking at where Choi-So-Wan wants to dive here. Choi-So-Wan been having so much success. He's already here on the flank with the Genji. You see the pings going off here too, but it's the respect right there too from the Disruptor shot that actually allows them to control so much space, but they have no reason to overextend here as they can see the Hunters now trying to dive onto the point.
They're intercepting as well. This is Charge kind of being split up. Their members are not really able to play together, so a couple of trades do come in. Leave going down is a big deal.
Absolutely huge here. Jimmy's been able to take out a lot of these first heads from the Hunters, but the nice trade going on 2-for-2 here is Krong's going to now be able to take care of Gaga. Going to be able to see that Krong's going to be able to be ahead with the Rampage as well on the Junker Queen, with Choi-So-Wan playing a lot more passively here. Jimmy's going to have to back off.
Jimmy's still kind of stuck at the moment, has the deflect, has the wall climb available. Here comes Choi now with the blade. Opening kill hasn't come through just yet. Finally finds Nisha.
Been rough here for Nisha as he's going to be the first one to go down, but that's Choi-So-Wan going to be able to force the Hunters all the way back off, and he's going to be able to continue pushing into them. Something that we've been seeing a lot with this meta, with a lot of the comps that we've seen so far within the stages. Basically, a lot of these teams kind of pushing into the spawn, putting in that extra pressure. You and I were talking a lot about it, and it's what we've been seeing more dominantly in this stage than we ever really have been before.
And they would have really stayed at the spawn as well and continued the spawn camp. It wasn't for the fact they lost far away in the middle of that. So can't spawn camp without all 5 alive here, 80% and counting. And Chengdu Hunters only just now coming into some ultimates. Extra Monk, importantly, you know, it's taken a while for these two supports to get in there. Certainly so far away, still holding on to there so far. Chengdu about to come in towards 5. Final lethal pop, overclock active.
Ooh, let's see if Leaf can actually be able to find a point here, but he can't. Choi-So-Wan is on his tail, used up the overclock, and he can't even be able to utilize it. As now the sound barrier comes in, the rally too. Monk Nisha trying to keep the rest of the Hunters alive. That survivability is so powerful here. As Krong goes down, the Rampage not going to be able to find the success that I really wanted to, despite now Jinwoo going down here. Jimmy's been so on point on getting those crucial shots to get those necessary shutdowns on both Jinwoo and Nisha. Overtime now taking away for Charge.
Charge, they still have 3 members alive currently. They have the advantage with 3 versus 2. Krong is still alive. Sorry, it's Hunters with the 3 versus 2, my bad, but Krong's still alive at least, so Charge will get out with their tank. And 99% to 0. Hunters have a long way to come back in. And Gaga getting some of the final damage and kills in there. 5 ultimates spent by the Chengdu Hunters. That extra blade they have advantage that will get them a fight with Jinwoo down though. Player disadvantage. Charge have the opportunity to clean up.
It's the crucial part here without having that one member that it now is going to be able to enable Charge. Choi-So-Wan needs to stay in this game here as Krong's going to be able to take the lead, back him up a bit. Far away now, he's going to be able to get taken down, so it's a trade here between the Hunters and the Charge, but Monk will be able to stay alive. Zerna's actually in the back here. Choi-So-Wan now going to be able to get into place with this blade. He's going to back off, and they are already at 99% as overtime is going to be ticking away, and Hunters nowhere really to be seen right now.
They don't have supports either, so they just have to rush in here. Jinwoo and Gaga already low HP, both down. Gaga off the map as well. Monk and Nisha still coming back from spawn. It's not going to be enough. Hunters win a single fight in the middle there. They had the 5 ultimates versus just the 4, but then Choi, obviously, because he used the blade much earlier to gain advantage for the Charge in terms of reaching that 99% in the first place, has the second blade coming online as the Charge are coming in for the retake. And for Chengdu Hunters, nothing to really play against that. Choi just needs a little bit of value found. They find the supports, they get the cap, they get the round underway. And I think the Charge so far kind of proven that even in fights that they're losing, they are able to trade effectively so that they are not just being completely 5-0 wiped or wiped in any sort of sense. They're able to get a couple of members down from Chengdu at all times. And even the fight in the middle that I sort of mentioned where it seemed like Chengdu had a positional advantage, they caught Charge on a bit of a rotation back over towards the point, kind of split the Charge up. Charge still got the first blood, but they still got Leave down first. Very bloody fight going both ways, but Charge still come out on top.
And it kind of trickles down to Jimmy's position too, kind of opening up a lot of these fights, going to be able to get that pick off of Leave and Nisha at the very start. Going to be able to have that shout so that way the Hunters can get enabled from the very beginning, but they still lose out on Nisha here. Jinwoo's going to be able to take out Jimmy first, but the number advantage is going to go in favor of the Charge, and we still see some of the trades coming in. Leave gets deleted. Krong going crazy right now for the Charge, and this is what we're talking about with the over-aggressiveness, Avro. Now he's going to be able to push up a little bit, get the shout coming down too, so that way they can go right back to the point to cap it first.
Yeah, they still have to focus on the cap, so this isn't where they're going to start spawn camping yet. Hunters also have respawners, and once again, Hunters will lose a fight, but still have a few members alive. That's really important, but they have
Going to be on top of those stairs right now, and there's that disruptor shot, so that way you could control that space, find some of that respect. See the Hunters now just trying to skirmish a little bit from the side, not going to try to overextend, just waiting out on Jinmu, who's about to get that blade up soon, but he has to contest that with Choi Soo-won here, who is leading the charge just by a little bit. Xerneas also just waiting to try to get that sound barrier, also on top of that against Nisha. Monk falling a little bit low here, but Choi Soo-won's been playing a lot of these angles so well.
Farway nearly died there. Choi Soo-won should be able to get this blade out in time. He actually dies to Gaga. He was on maybe 1/3 HP, got cleaned up, very close to the blade. This will give Jinmu the advantage. Chengdu might be able to take this without actually using any ults.
What a huge first pick right there, because now Choi was not able to use that blade. He'll have it obviously for that next fight right here, but Hunters could try to shift a lot of that momentum now as they're going to be able to finally get the point here. 53% in favor of the charge, but the charge are going to be able to come back. They're going to be able to build up into that rampage, and they also have that blade to first get that pick. And to put them into place, Xerneas also is about to get that sound barrier.
I mean, that's the equalizing fight, right? That's the one fight where Hunters are down, actually, in terms of catching up to the Guangzhou charge. They'll win it anyway. Jinmu gets to pull the blade.
Oh, try to go in, but Choi Soo-won gets the first pick here onto Gaga. That's going to be huge because the Rampage won't be able to be used here for the Hunters, while the Rally and the sound barrier from Nisha is going to be able to help them disengage. They know it's so crucial there when they lose out on Gaga. See the charge also really close to be able to get their own set of ults with Krong about to get the Rampage and the Rally now coming in. Saw the shout coming in from Krong, so that way they can get extra aggressive, get right into Hunter's face, and Choi Soo-won still leading the pack there from the front. Oh, here comes the Rampage though. It finds 3 right now, and Krong is done. Oh, Leave says, hold on, let me put some respect out here as the Hunters are going to be able to clean up the charge.
Krong's not even just dead, he had his ultimate cancel there as well. He went for a very late rampage, and like I said, he was going to go for the ultimate, but because Gaga goes first, Krong is chunked out, probably copped the headshot from Leave a little bit earlier on. Didn't have the confidence just to force in the ultimate because you don't really want to use that while you're low HP, and this is why you go for the ultimate rampage, and then you get blown up and the rampage doesn't even work. Chengdu, really great opportunity now to equalize to 62%. They've won 2 really fantastic fights in a row. I think is the only ultimate available for either team at this rate.
See the shot coming in as Jimmy's going to be able to take care of Jinmu. Absolutely huge here. They're going to find the trade though. Farway going to get taken down. Jimmy's going to get punished after being far up ahead right here as Monk is going to be able to take a nice off angle over to the side. They did lose out on Leave right there too, but they do have the number advantage. It's about that momentum like you were talking about before, Avro, as Krong is still taking the lead real quick here. He's going to be able to back off a little bit off to the middle side of this point, but you could see the backup coming in from Xerneas. Farway right behind him here too. Doesn't have that rally in comparison to Monk, who's already nearly at 85% now, but the Hunters consistently have stopped Farway from even being able to get put into place. It's Leave who has been going crazy.
Leave's got a number of very valuable picks so far in this round alone. That's going to be 162. Hunter secure, and Monk coming through the rally towards the end there with double supports down Farway. Again, initially did die in that fight. Xerneas to follow through charge. Did not have further members to be able to really contest or challenge. Certainly not the numbers alive. And Hunters, they get away with quite a lot on that second router control center. The second fight, the second neutral, where Choi Soo-won is dead before he's even got the blade. And this fight as well, you see Krong, he's got to come on through, just boom, headshot by Leave. Xerneas to follow straight afterwards, and that's a cancelled rampage. I mean, that is brutal going up against the charge.
Something else to note here too, that the Hunters have been shutting down Farway a lot there. Rally not really able to get that impact. Obviously what we saw right there too, the rampage not going to be able to even be used after being pushed by Krong. Amazing look from the Hunters in that second point. But we see Jinmu on the far here, Choi Soo-won on the far here too.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where, you know, I think both teams have shown some favorability towards the Farah. Jinmu probably a little bit more. Choi will match. And the more interesting thing about the Farah duel here is that neither player had really expected or had cared enough to run an Echo, because if you know that Jinmu's going to go Farah, your response probably should end up being the Echo. They probably value just being on that starting Farah more, and currently, Hunters, I mean, they don't even really care about Choi. They've just gotten the other kills, and they'll have to cap.
Jimmy wasn't really a threat right there too. They also found Farway as the first pick here, as the Hunters have consistently been able to isolate Farway, but there's that swap that you were mentioning before. Choi Soo-won actually going over to the Widow and immediately takes care of Jinmu from the skies. What a quick answer that is, while he manages to swap off real quick, and of course with that latest special we had seen before, he still gets to keep his old charge.
And Jinmu's actually going to stay on the far, it seems, because, well, Choi Soo-won's gone over towards the Genji, so it's a pretty safe matchup. While Jinmu's coming back in, Leave has already been taken down, so Choi's wasting no time in applying that pressure alongside Krong. Look at the right click onto Jinmu. Yeah, he's just won that fight. Wow.
Wow. Getting right into his face, testing Jinmu, winning that trade once again here as the Charger not going to be able to dive onto this point. Nearing 40% here for the Hunters, but with Monk going down and Jinmu making the swap right here, that's going to be the point going in favor to the Charge.
And that's the thing, right? Because Hunters had Soul managed to get the cap that entire way through. They won the opening neutral. They cleaned up everybody on the charge. Choi got the Jinmu kill. He came back on the Genji. Jinmu then came back on the Fire. Still, Jinmu's now on the Genji, so a little bit more of an extended skirmish before the charge could actually build up enough for a lead to go for that point and finally get the cap. A 43% advantage, still decent for Hunters. But because of this whole entire Fire situation from both sides, we don't have an accelerated Genji ultimate blade built. Usually by now, one person would actually have a blade. Choice of one is a lot closer given that he's been on the Genji for at least one fight longer. Should be coming through at Monk and Nisha. They can counter, but Nisha's just dead.
Wow. Nisha's dead, and there won't be any sound barrier here. You can see Leave getting taken out next as Choice of One dives in with the blade. Krong gonna be able to get that follow-up onto Gaga, getting into place thanks to Xerneas and the speed boost. Now they don't even have to burn these support ults either, Alvaro. They're gonna have both the sound barrier, both the rally now here too. Krong's about to get the rampage, and Jimmy as well with that overclock. So it's gonna be lethal here for the Hunters to try to reclaim this point.
I mean, the timing was just perfect, right? Krong getting Nisha down just as the sound barrier comes up means just no chance for Hunters to do anything about that blade. It's going to be a free, not quite free, but a single ultimate fight win for the charge. This time around, the Rampage will start coming on through both support ultimates. Should be huge, but Nisha's dead already again.
What? Nisha getting taken out. It's absolutely huge because now Monk already used up the rally. Leave also used up the overclock, so that's 2 ults off the table already. Nisha's at least going to have the sound barrier going in, but what a dominating win right here for Charge on that team fight.
Yeah, now they'll get a little bit of push up as well. Not quite into spawn, but just a little bit of aggression shown towards the Hunters, and really tragic loss for the Hunters there, but brilliant fight win for the Charge. It's like, sort of like you mentioned, a 2-2 kind of ult trade there, but Hunters getting no value, and the Charge getting another fight win, heading towards the 99. Gaga about to hit that Rampage, so double Rampages coming through. Both should be blocked out by the sound barriers, but Jinmu needs to wait for his time as well. He needs to play this blade after the sound barrier has been burned.
Especially here, last fight territory in favor of the Charge right now. The Rampage, oh, Nisha, no! Not like this! The sound barrier deleting, won't even be able to help out the Hunters. I want a refund after that one. The Hunters get wiped out, and the Charge take map number 1 in this first series of the day.
Oh my goodness, yeah, tragedy befalling the Chengdu Hunters time and time again on that Gardens, and right towards the end there. Don't actually know how Nisha might have Ajaxed that one. Could have been booped up by Xerneas, could have been, you know, booped by Faraway as well, but saw him getting airtime. I mean, that ultimate got popped and he was in the air for a very, very long time. Never hit the ground. By the time he did, already dead. Couldn't get a single sound barrier off on that entire round. Really upset himself with the Chengdu Hunters with the Guangzhou Charge. Just kind of showing that they're here to play today. Like, you know, I don't know that they are necessarily the favored team versus the Chengdu Hunters, but they've got that map 1 on lock. They show that they are the better team, at least on that opening lead jump.
Despite them having some map 5s in that last week, they've really been able to showcase what they have here in store for this roster, especially looking at Choice of One and his answer to the Pharah. I mean, that was just map number 1. I'm excited to see, as we dive into Hollywood as map number 2, what's really in store here, because it was going back and forth between both these teams. We saw point number 3 there as the Hunters were starting to regain some of that extra momentum. But ever, we're going to have to see here on the other side of this break. We have Hollywood when we come back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Overwatch League. We're here in the APAC region. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We just finished our first map right now with the Charge taking it in a what looked to be almost close game between the Hunters and the Charge.
Yeah, and Charge, really impressive. You know, I got to say, Gardens was a not quite flawless, but a nearly, flawless comeback for them, given that they did lose the opening neutral. Went down 40-odd%, but came back really strong. Choi, even in initially a losing situation on the Farah, very interesting. I think that was the first time we actually saw both teams run a Farah out the gate. Typically, it's one team, maybe the other team is going for more of an echo look or just running out standard in the Jungle Queen composition and not really thinking too much about the fire. But here, both teams had the same idea. Both ran the fire, wasn't too concerned about what the other team was doing. They just wanted to play their own game. And Choi kind of using and utilizing the new DPS passive to great effect, where he goes towards the Widow, double shoots Jimmu, who did not even expect the Widowmaker to come on through, and that was a very critical pick, because if Choi failed to get the kill on the Widow, then you'd have to imagine he probably has to come back out on an Echo or something to deal with it, or he has to stay on the Widow a little bit longer, which is not ideal. But then he changes towards the Genji, wins the fight for the Charge, and has the better blade in the earlier play, because Jimmu was stuck on the Farah for one extra fight, where then he has to lose some ult charge because he has to swap to the Genji after he's already built over the 30% sort of threshold on this Farah, right? So he's behind Choi in the blade, and that single blade kind of snowballs a Charge further forward into another fight. Nisha, unfortunately, doesn't get a single sound barrier off. Hunters in general slower on ultimates. Yeah. And Charge just kind of snowballed that one. So, real credit to the Charge. They looked fantastic on our Lijiang Tower map.
Yeah, I feel like Choi really did help set up the pace, like you mentioned, not only dealing with the Farah, but then when he swapped over to the Genji, he immediately got the reflect, also took care of Jinmu, who then after that one pick, that's when he was like, all right, swap back to the Genji himself. Very interesting to make that pacing very prevalent from Choi So-won. Also, the fact that Hunters were unable to really take advantage of Nisa or the sound barrier was very crucial. But now we get set up here, second map on Hollywood. Excited to see what the Hunters do differently here, because again, this is kind of reiterating the fact that the Charge also have the forward players from the Hunters here.
Hashtag official Orisa gameplay. You saw it here. Out the gate,
2 seconds.
Gaga actually did actually throw a spear. He threw a single spear and then he swapped. So yeah, 2 seconds of Orisa gameplay, but we got it.
Said, I see the Jagged Blade. I want to do exactly that. I want to grow up and be just like that. Let me send out my spear real quick here. As Choi So-won is the first one to get taken out. Nisha looking out for some blood here, trying to get some revenge. Choi So-won, is it going to be part of this? They won't be able to get in some of that space. So Charge are going to be able to put in some respect, going to be able to try to take a longer rotation off to the high ground.
Yeah, some early picks really going the way of the Hunters here, but Charge not out of it just yet. Jimmy low, just taking down Hunters. Chasing really far. Hunters actually kind of split right now because half their team is on the point. Those members are being taken down. Jimmu's low as well, so this kind of excursion by the Hunters to split their forces between chasing Charge members and having half the team trying to go for the cap. They lose on both sides.
It worked amazingly here for the Charge because Choi So-won, being the first one to go down, was already right there to actually punish the Hunters for trying to overextend. When they were so close, they got that first tick, nearly getting that second tick right here. Now they have to go for a quick little reset, while the Charge now have already repositioned to try to take that high ground.
One tick game. I was going to say no ticks game, but Chengdu actually do get something out of that fight. Shots being expended from both ends now. Bunch of low members, but Gaga comes out on top.
Jagged Blade and Gaga taking not only both supports here, and Jinmu getting the follow-up into Krong, but that's going to be the Hunters wiping the Charge, leaving Choi So-won as that sole survivor. He's going to have to back off, wait for the rest of Charge, and Hunters getting overly aggressive a little bit here too. Nisha having to be careful.
Just checking to see what Choi wants to do. Forcing him away, making sure there's no touch coming in. Don't think that would have been a retake scenario for Charge anyway, given the rest of the members were still respawning. Jimmy will have the earlier blade over Choi, but not by much. Choi should be able to catch up here. Charge can sort of just hold this opening high ground in the general store as the Chengdu Hunters push the payload. By the time the payload is in position for a flight to be engaged by either side, there will be a number of ultimates. I expect that both Xerneas and Nisha should have the sound barriers as well.
See, hopefully Nisha doesn't get Ajax out of his sound barrier again like we saw in that last map here. Xerneas also having that sound barrier. No, please no. Cursed. That would be absolutely cursed here as the Hunters are going to be able to try to wrap around this corner. You see Jinmu with the blade ready to go. Monk also just trying to make sure that they get that rally ready. Almost right there. They get booped, yeah, right off the side there. Xerneas, unfortunately, can't even make his way back to the ground before Jinmu is able to take him out. Absolutely huge here. Now they have the number advantage here, and maybe they won't have to exert so much of their ultimates.
Charge is trying to force Hunters into playing for ults at the moment. Krong low HP, and with Krong down, Hunters should be able to get away without using a single ult, but Jim was just getting a ton of frags here. Fantastic punish initially. You saw that Xerneas walked up to the elevator, right, to push half of the Chengdu squad off of the general store high ground, off that roof, but because half the members of Hunters were still there and didn't get pushed off, including Jimmu, who was around the corner, they got to chase down Xerneas, apply a lot of damage and pressure, get that kill, convert the 5v4. Charge at least delayed the payload by rushing straight there, but they can't respond. They couldn't get any kills, so that was a free fight win for the Charge, no ultimate spend.
Kind of got that revenge there too. There, themselves actually are the ones that were going to get it out. But see right here, Monk now being able to take care of Jimmy, as Leave is going to be able to pop that ult real quick, going to be able to use that rail, going to do a lot of damage. And now with the sound barrier, see Jinmu is looking for blood. Blade for blade, we're having the anime battle going on in the bottom, but Choice One popped his last. He finds Leave, as Leave was the one that was playing a lot more passively there with that railgun charged up with the overclock. And now you see the rest of the Hunters immediately out of there. They're going to try to disengage, not going to feed any more into Charge's ults. As you can see, Xerneas far away are going to try to build into this next set of support ults, and Jinmu is going to be able to punish Choice One for trying to move up a little bit more. Xerneas playing off the wall though, and he's been doing a really good job at actually trying to book them away. Faraway trades that though, and he's going to be able to find Monk. That's actually huge right here. And with the Rampage, you find Jimmy out, you find another one out here as Faraway follows him into the spawn, and Jinmu is going to be able to get that trade. Both these teams though going back and forth, but with Choice One being on this Tracer, just trying to contest for as long as possible. They're going to play this more passively.
Gaga playing at the limit there, far bigger Rampage than what we got out of Krong there. 4 members hit, Jimmy on low HP as it was, just bled down. Chengdu Hunters fully respawned, they have 5 alive, they're getting the frags, Hunters still waiting for their 5, and they just cannot get all players onto the payload. This is just going to be a big cleanup.
The Disruptor shot, just trying to push anybody off who wants to try to contest through that choke point here. Trey real quick as we were making some desperate spots just to make sure you can contest on that payload. Time Bank whittling away here, but the Hunters finally clean up the charge and they finally get to that second point.
Yeah, and you also saw Krong go over towards the Doomfist, but he'll have to reset his charge. Obviously, tanks don't get to retain any of that. And while Krong did use his Rampage in the previous fight, because he's only just freshly swapping over towards the Junker Queen now, he's very, very far behind Gaga by 50%. He would have at least gained something by coming back over towards the Junker Queen again. It just seems like the Charge wanted to make those emergency swaps to be able to challenge for the payload. Nice blink into the melee for a Choice One to get Gaga.
Really nice right there too. Also being enabled, pushing forward here. You see Krong right behind Choice One. Same time here, the Hunters now having to back off, wait out on Gaga. That's some more time taken away from their time bank. 2 minutes, 30 seconds though here as a Charge. Taking a nice aggressive approach here. This is kind of what we were talking about before. Just holding these choke points would be so necessary here too, as the Blade is going to go in from Jinmu. He's coming in from the skies though. He's trying to clear the back line from the Charge. We're trying to defend onto this payload now as Faraway gets taken out by Leaf. Going to be able to enable Jinmu as he takes care of Krong. That's 2 down for the Charge, make it 3 now. And Zerny's going to meet them back at the spawn. Choice One won't even be able to back away, and the Hunters clear out this point.
Yeah, Jimmy spent a lot of time slashing air, but at least got 1 good hit into Krong. At least he was kind of, I guess, corralling the rest of the Charge into the Chengdu Hunters for Leave and the Garg and the rest of the members to get those kills. And a couple of dash resets in there will force the Charge back, really frag up the Krong, and then onto Jimmy there as well. Choice still sticking on the Tracer for what it's worth. And he put 5% towards that pulse, but did get a stick on the Garga previously. Low HP, and Hunters probably have to back out.
Ooh, being able to find that pick onto Leave in the back line too. Won't be able to enable that railgun here too, as Leave was about to get that ult ready with the overclock. And Choice One on this Tracer has been able to do so much damage into these back lines. Playing patiently, now has the pulse bomb though, and could get into position with Xerneas having that sound barrier, as well as Faraway having the rally.
Yeah, I'll question how long he wants to stay on this Tracer, and certainly now this is kind of the fight where probably have to burn a pulse bomb or something. Stick comes through, I don't think it did really enough damage. Might not have actually got that stick after the Leave is currently just cleaning up.
Cleaning up the back here, clean up on aisle 6, as the Hunters now going to be able to clean up the payload, and they're going to be able to move right along. Currently, Xerneas is also out for the count. Still, yeah, it still has that Rampage here too, so he could actually deny the Charge from actually trying to be able to contest at the same time. It is going to be able to get contested here by the Charge, and now here's that opportunity as Gaga's going to use that Rampage. Here's the sound barriers now coming in from both sides. See, the Rampage, although it did find Choice One far away, though, isn't going to be able to take them out just yet. Now Jimmy's going to have all the time in the world in the back line to keep up that pressure. Now that's 3 down from the Hunters, leaving only Leave and Monk. They were right there after 30 seconds, ticking away from the Hunters.
1.1 meters. They might not cap now.
Right
they might not have to cap. They might not have to cap, given this is a lot of distance game, but you would love to be able to cap from a situation where you would, like you mentioned, right there, right at the exit, right at the finish line. Chengdu, final approach. Blade versus Krong's Rampage. And Krong is waiting for an opportunity where Hunters are going to be grouped together. Likely he's only going to catch a couple here. Hunters have to be very aware of the Rampage coming on through. Jinmu cannot get caught. Jinmu absolutely cannot get caught by this Rampage if he wants to win.
Krong's gonna go, spin it, and Jinmu does get caught off. He gets denied from the Blade, and Jimmy's gonna finish him off. That Rampage was huge. 8-4 from the Hunters, and now nobody from the Hunters are gonna be left here to be able to stay on this point. The Charge clean up the payload, and like you mentioned, Avro, it is very close to that finish line, but it isn't there yet.
Yeah, Guangzhou Charge in the second to last fight managed to get members on board really quickly. That's maybe kind of the advantage of having the Tracer there as well. And Choice One never ended up going back towards the Genji, so just kind of playing the horizontal nature of the C point of Hollywood, given that there's a tiny bit of high ground that there's some high ground that you can play through in this opening few lanes, but once you get towards the end, I can sort of see the reasoning for maybe the Tracer to come on through. Does end up working out quite well for the Charge. Jimmy even coming through on the Ashe towards the end there. Yeah, I mean, kind of an okay situation for both teams. I don't think Hunters can be too upset with that finish. You don't cap, but in this sort of situation, 78.04 should be enough as a defensible position. This will maybe come back to bite them if Charge are going to be good enough to get the full cap themselves. And, you know, in that sort of situation, you'd be thinking, could Hunters have maybe taken us to a time bank and see what that could have looked like, and what kind of remaining time for the Charge as well when they do get the finish. If they do get the finish, will be important. So, yeah, I mean, we see a lot of teams, my history of casting this meta on Hollywood, I think we see a lot of teams kind of end around A and B. We rarely see teams head towards C that often from my experience, so that's why I'm kind of thinking from this situation, maybe it's not that bad that they don't cap, but Hunters could still get punished for that.
Very true. I'm more impressed to see the adjustments that Choice One and Jimmy as well have made to just make those quick adjustments and actually retaliating with the Tracer and the Ashe like we saw at the very end right there too. Sticking to their guns though, of course, as we are going to be coming out of the gates as the Charge are on attack, sticking with the Genji and the Sojourn. Hunters are trying to take control over that high ground space here, and Choice One taking a good amount of damage. Jimmy too in the back line here. The Hunters holding up to the front line here pretty well too, Avro, as you can see now the Disruptor Shot going to be able to control that next corner here from the Charge, as well as the shout from the rest of the Charge to move right in. That was beautiful there because right on time from the shout, Krong was able to get into position, take care of Leap, and now Nisha's up and off the table, and the Hunters are no longer there to stay on this point to defend it, and a nice time bank for the Charge to start off with.
Hunters failed to disengage properly. You actually see from Leaves POV specifically, I'm actually glad we saw his POV because he dies again somehow. Jimmy just finds a headshot, which means Hunters at this point guaranteed to basically lose his point to the rest of the members. About to cleaned up. Choice of One have been following Monk up the elevator. But again, from Leaves POV, his team is exiting towards his right, down towards a Mega Pack, stuck in that small room on the side right. Leave is going towards the left on the elevator side, doesn't link up with his own team, gets cut off on the retreat, and Hunters never really retreat together as a whole squad. So Leave getting killed there ends up being a snowball for the Guangzhou Charge, and 5 minutes plus in the time bank. I mean, that was a flawless first take.
Beautiful here, and the fact that they're also able to get up to this high ground position as they move all the way up, they're just trying to deny that space away from the Hunters. Hunters, though, are going to be able to take control over the high ground right now. Currently, you can see where they're spotted right now, too, is with the Disruptor Shot on the bottom. Just going to allow Charge to take their time. I mean, they have that extra time that they can work with as they are going to try to find this skirmish from afar from the Hunters. Yeah, and from the elevator, even from the point that we saw the Hunters when they were on the attack, we saw how important it was to hold that spot. Lee taking a good amount of damage, and he's going to be able to back off.
At this point, I mean, Charge have a couple of options. They can either attack the elevator and go to force this high ground, or just keep playing the low ground, and with that, Farway's the target.
Farway off the table, sound barrier used too, yeah, from Xerneas. Now Nisha and Monk could contest that with their own support ults, and with Choice of One getting taken down, he'll have the Blade going into that next fight. That could be crucial if he can try to pinpoint Monk and Nisha. And Jinmu now going to be able to take some of that extra health here from the shout, but it's not going to be enough as Krong deletes him. Jinmu has that Blade though going into the next fight.
Little scatterbrain there from the Chengdu Hunters again, where they just struggle to really collapse into one member or the other. They see a lot of Charge members split between multiple different areas and really capitalize on anybody. Now the ultimates do come on through. Leave in trouble again, but he does get saved.
The huge difference right here. Xerneas doesn't have that sound barrier. Nisha does, though. And with the rally shared from both of these teams, now Leave is the first one to go down. Choice1 be able to have that with the dash real quick. So quick on not only resetting those dashes, but now Jinwoo can answer later. And Choice1 doesn't even let him get the chance. Make it a 2K real quick for him. The rest of the charge cleanup. But Choice1's positioning right there to dive right on top of Jinwoo was beautiful.
And he had the earlier blade in terms of using it. Jinwoo held onto it a little bit. Jimmy gets another frag out of spawn. He did that to Leave a little bit earlier on this attack when Lee was trying to come back from spawn, and Jimmy would just walk up and get a headshot into Jinwoo, slowing things down from the Hunters, and Hunters have to decide, can they go for this touch or not? Jinwoo's coming back in. The payload's basically there.
Right there too. Charge now going to be able to stay here to contest the Hunters. It's the Hunters though. Gaga falling a little low here. The Rampage though is going to take care of Monk, be the nail in the coffin for Jinwoo. Now Gaga falls low, doesn't really have Nisha to really help them out because the rest of the Hunters get wiped out. The Charge are quite literally on a rampage right now. They are holding forward Avro and they have not been stopped.
And at this point, they can't actually finish the map. So, I was kind of saying, maybe Hunters wouldn't get punished too hard for not finishing. Now Charge is saying, oh, we're going to put them into sword and see how that looks. It is looking like a pretty dominant attack so far. The silver lining there is that Hunters coming in for the final retake does force out the extra rampage. So at least they take off an ultimate from the Guangzhou Charge side. But again, you look at that second to last fight on B. Choi with a much superior play, despite Nisha having the sound barrier advantage. Choi just played that one patiently, but not so patient that he played in second. Jinwoo played in second and didn't get the value. Charge, still making a bit of a push-up. This should be the blade coming through again. Choi should know that he's got a reasonable advantage ahead of him. Xerneas would like to save beat here if possible.
They have the opportunity now with the blade, and he does. He finds Leave off the side of the corner here. They trade that for Farway, though, and that's the rally. Not going to be able to be used for that fight. See if it's even necessary here, as Choice1 is going to be able to try to dive in. Could find Monk maybe as an opportunity, but doesn't want to overextend. You see Xerneas actually just trying to put him right back into position if he wants to get a little bit more aggressive. And with that shout, he definitely can as he continues to rack up Nisha, Jinwoo. That's two supports now as well from the Hunters that were taken down without being able to use their ults for a second fight.
Early beat coming through as well. Charge want to finish it right now. Monk gets his rally cancelled. I mean, Hunter's about to lose this map. They just can't compete right now. That's a 4-man sound barrier, and maybe it'll be enough. But Gaga's looking on half HP, on 0 HP.
They don't even have the chance, Avro. They don't even have the chance to leave the spawn doors. Choice1 right in their face, trying to take care of Nisha. The Hunters are so desperate to pop the rally, to pop the sound barrier, but it wasn't enough. The Charge on a different level, taking map number 2 and sitting at match point.
And the difficult scenario for the Hunters rather was you look at that second to last fight before we got into the push. They was 3 members stuck in the side room as Choi blades, and they save the sound barrier as kind of noted. Charge, they get 2 kills. Hunters, they don't really make any, distinctive decisions about what is that they're supposed to do with the 3 remaining players. Are the 3 players supposed to back on out? Are they trying to go in and contest the payload, slow things down? They don't do any of that. The payload is continually pushing on through while 3 members are caught out. They eventually die anyway because there's still advantage for Charge, but because they die so late with the payload reaching the end, there's not enough members for the Hunters to actually contest for a final push. So, yeah, those guys stuck on the side, those 3 guys, they needed to just reset. They were kind of not doing anything on the side, and that cost them the map. Or at least cost them that defense.
Yeah, they were desperate to try to get up to that point as soon as possible, but they were just staggering themselves in the very end. And this is the best case scenario for Charge right now, sitting at match point after taking Legion and Hollywood. We got Junkertown next on the other side of this break. You definitely don't want to miss it, because this means a lot here for Guangzhou Charge. Well, Avril, the Chargers sitting at match point right now, and they are looking like they are on another level. I mean, with the way that they're looking right now, this is that one series that you and I were discussing. Hey, this could go the extra mile, but it seems like the Chargers are looking to speedrun things a bit.
I mean, maybe they could still go the extra mile if Hunters can sort of get in the gear and in motion to make some sort of a comeback happen. I mean, Charge themselves were able to get a, entire reverse sweep versus the Fusion, but now, like you sort of said, at match point, looking dominant. They look far more comfortable today. Hunters are making some big mistakes out there. That Hollywood, a lot of things left to be desired. I mean, you have the kind of failed disengage from the Hunters on the A-point defense. You have the B defense as well. A bit of scatterbrain in terms of their focus. Like, what are we going after? Which play are we trying to punish? They actually want to fight, but they couldn't quite convert onto extra kills as they're trying to chase the charge away, right? They actually then lost players on that chase away. And then the whole situation on the C defense, as I explained, where, 3 members of Hunters just kind of got caught out on the sidelines with nothing really to do. They couldn't decide what they wanted to do, and because they wasted so much time, they didn't have the respawns to be able to contest anymore. So there's just so many blunders from my perspective looking at the Chengdu Hunters today. They just don't seem to be in form, whereas the Guangzhou Charge, they've looked the best they've ever looked this entire year.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the Rampage timings from Krong. We saw Krong actually get the shutdown, I believe, on Jinmu earlier on in the first map on Lijian with the properly timed Rampage at the very end of that third round. And then the way that the Charger are also able to rotate that with Choi So-won and Jimmy also being able to get enabled in the back line, they're looking fantastic right now. Looking at the Hunters, on the other hand, though, it feels like they have been making some of those mistakes that you've been talking about. Between the Lucio as well, we saw the Ajax Lucio, unfortunately, from the Hunters in that first map, too. You gotta call out. You gotta call it as it is in that situation. Even pushing a little bit too far ahead when they were so close to having some extra time at the time bank over on Hollywood. Little things like that, though, those little positionings have been taken advantage of by players like Choi So-won, honestly.
Yeah, and Choi So-won's been having a fantastic day so far. It's not just the Genji, but even showing the Tracer a little bit of love over towards that C defense and kind of on the B defense as well when they're trying to go for the desperation play for the retake. That doesn't work, but has the confidence to at least stay on the Tracer for C, see it out, make it work. Got a brilliant pulse bomb kill into Gaga. Well, it's a pulse then into a blink melee, which was honestly quite mechanically good to see. And then the Guangzhou Charge, you have the opening sort of, we already talked about it, but the Pharah into the Widowmaker, into the Genji, and then winning the 1v1 as the Genji versus the Pharah, which typically is quite a hard thing to do. Choi's been on fire, but I just got to bring up Krong in this discussion because I feel like this is the best Jungle Queen we have seen from Krong this entire meta, this entire stage. He's kind of struggled on this hero, but today he's really shown up and he's had an equal, if not better game than Gaga, who I would have said definitely was a better Jungle Queen coming into this one. I mean, we already talked about Jimmy, but Jimmy's had, I think, a pretty stellar stage so far in the Summer Showdown, so he's just kind of doing his thing that he's always been doing.
I like how you bring up the difference that we had seen so far between Krong and Gaga. They were pretty close in general before diving into the series, but it's the difference that we are seeing right now with the way that Krong is playing with a lot of confidence. Wonder here if it's that home territory with the Charge, having Jimmy, Xerneas, maybe looking at the Hunters like, I know you guys remember us. I hope you do. Jinmu, real
That's the
quick,
thing, right?
because
These are the guys that got dropped. Jimmy got dropped midway through the season last year. Xerneas and Farway were, the sort of cutoff members when Hunters had to downsize. They banked up on Monk and Nisha as the support line that they wanted to keep, and Xerneas and Farway, unfortunately, did not get kept with that loss. So now these are the guys succeeding against the Chengdu Hunters. That must be a good feeling for them, but also a really unfortunate place for the Hunters to be. And speaking of unfortunate, Gaga just put to the knife, he's went down.
That was all because he got pulled in initially right there, too, by that Jagged Blade here. Krong is stepping it up, just like we were talking about, controlling so much of that space, but the follow-ups between Krong and Choi So-won have been another level. Xerneas is also speed boosting them up so that way they can get up into that position to prevent Gaga from getting away on time. The Hunters now having to respect that and holding that next choke point.
And it looks like Gaga and the Hunters are trying to back out. Again, they're disengaging, but it's a failed disengage, because Gaga ate a Jagged Knife. Jagged Blade and Krong, I mean, that's credit to Krong as well. Krong just pulls him right back in, and Gaga's nothing we can do about it. Chengdu Hunters at least are able to get the rest of the members out alive, so they can still defend this choke point, this kill box, and charge. Jimmy on the side. Wanted to go for Rail and Monk, but Monk with the shield up.
Unfortunate here, because that's going to cost Farway there, too. See Gaga with the Jagged Blade himself and getting the retaliation almost immediately here, too, with the Carnage. Got to swing the next around, let Krong know what's up, as he's going to be able to back away. But that was a really good retaliation here from the Hunters, because they were able to actually reposition themselves in that choke point.
Yeah, really good kill by Leave to sort of set that up and the further conversion onto further members of the charge as well. You have Jimmy on the extremities trying to look for that flank, trying to look for that single rail shot on the flank, and he himself is the one that gets punished. Got the 100 charge now. Thought about going for Jimmu, misses that shot unfortunately. Jimmu's still low.
Managed to get away just briefly here. It's that shout, but Nisha gets low all the way down and gets taken out by Jimmy here. Not going to be able to build up that sound barrier, which is important, but the charge lose out on two. Zernia is still up alive, but Monk gets taken out too. It's Jinmu now who's been able to retaliate too, letting Choice1 know, hey, he's still back in this conversation here from the Hunters.
Yeah, Jinmu's, he's had some great moments, had some unfortunate moments, but it's generally been on the positive side of the gameplay so far. Versus the Guangzhou charge. Not sure what Krong was doing that far out. I don't know if he got pulled out by Gaga's blade or something like that, but he died very far out compared to the rest of his team. After relevant supports had already been traded, leave with another open shot at Jimmy. That'll slow down the charge.
Rogan so strong right there with that charge shot real quick, letting Jimmy know. Now charge still has Nernius with that sound barrier. See if they have that position as Jimmy's going to be able to make his comeback from the spawn room. See Hunters, though, with a plethora of ultimates to work with themselves. They're about to get the sound barrier, too, so five-man ult. As you can see, Jinmu trying to get out of that position, falling pretty low. Choice1 doesn't want to overextend.
And Hunters have all 5 now. All 5 ultimates up alive. Krong's taken down, just gets one shot by Leave. It's, I think, 3 fights in a row now for the Chengdu Hunters with Leave just gets the opening rail.
Yep. See the rally now getting pulled up from far away after finding that pick that Lee was able to get. Jinmu, though, gets taken down before even being able to utilize that blade. That's actually huge here. Both of the DPS from Hunters get taken out without using the blade, as Choice1 has now been able to make that engagement. Kron's going to be able to get into place, and the rest of the charge are going to clean up the Hunters.
Hunters respond really poorly to the 3 ultimates burned by charge there as well. I think they were trying to be patient. Nisha eventually pops out the sound barrier, but they already lost one, so they popped the sound barrier in a 4v5 to try and stay in the game. No other member of the Hunters were able to do too much there. Monk could have double ulted, but they probably felt like that would have been too greedy. Unfortunately, the greedy thing ends up being holding the ultimates because Charge win that fight. Choi times his place that once sound barrier is gone, he goes on in. If Monk can't respond, if Monk doesn't hit a whip shot, then Charge are going to get the fight win because popping a rally that late when the blade's already out is not going to help you anymore. Hunters, I think, unfortunately end up just walking out of there with 4 ults up, and it really sucks when you lose with that many ults alive. That's a really rough loss, but Charge just take advantage.
And they didn't really have the chance to breathe right there. It was both DPS from the Hunters that were the front of the few to first get taken down, but Xerneas and Jinmu get taken down here too. You saw that blaster shot from Jimmy over to the back line to help that pick get confirmed, as now Jimmy goes down without the blade. He won't even be able to use it for this fight as the sound barrier comes in. Huge rampage though. It finds 4. Is it enough here though, as the sound barrier from Xerneas is going to be able to try to keep the charge up alive? He needs to use the blade here as Jimmy's going to be able to make his way back, but Gaga gets taken down. The rally too isn't going to help out Monk, and the Hunters now are going to get wiped out. Leaf won't even be able to turn over to the side as Krong is the one that's cleaning up everybody from the Hunters. That's a 3K going in favor to Krong, and look how at ease he looks here. He's looking like it's just another day at work for Krong.
And this might just be another cap as well. I think Hunters are trying to come back in, but a lot of members of Charge have pushed up. Jinmu's still holding onto the play there. That was, I think, the last really good opportunity on B to be able to use that play. They've given up the point. You have Gaga rampaging in, which forces the sound barrier. Once the sound barrier starts to fade, Jinmu's time to come alive is there. It doesn't matter if it ends up being over expenditure because Leaf had already popped the overclock as well, right? You're thinking double DPS ultimates. Is that the right play? I think in that specific situation, yeah, it would have been. That was the only thing that could have saved the Hunters. Unfortunately, they'll be holding on to further ultimates as they back to see. Charge still have, a reasonable amount of time to play with. It's not the most amazing amount of time, but just remember, Charge are coming back into ultimates here.
Ooh, the shout now to try to contest the blade from Jinmu. He's going to be able to find Farway. That's going to be big there too because they won't be able to use that rally to help sustain themselves. But that's fine here for the Charge. They're going to back off. They have some of that extra time, and the Hunters, though, are going to have the opportunity to move up just a little bit here, but Jinmu doesn't want to get ahead of himself.
And Charge don't have a really good response there because they don't have the sound barrier. They could have pre-rallied that one, but that's it also does allow the Hunters just to disengage and wait out the rally. So Charge didn't have really good plays there except to walk in, eat the blade, have 4 ultimates available. Now they're pre-rallied in. Get the push in Hunters. Okay, they're trying to back on out, but Jimmy won't let them. Jimmy's just going to get the kill.
Jimmy was able to get up to the high ground there with that jump, though, and he's not only going to be able to take care of Nisha, he takes care of Jinmu as well. Nisha not going to be able to have that sound barrier for this fight, but he will come back with a fight himself. But the Charge are going to have all the time in the world, not only to clear that next corner, but to at least move up to put in some of that extra pressure to build into their next set of ults.
Yeah, they push up with 4, right? I mean, led by Jimmy at the spear tip. It's far away, still pushing the payload while they're winning their fight. And it's kind of like I said earlier, right? You pre-rally into this fight. Hunter's response is to disengage. But Charge, just, they run up so quickly, they speed into the Chengdu Hunters and don't allow them to escape. Jimmy capping 2 players on the way through. Now, we're on the precipice. This is basically going to be the final engagement here, and Charge hold the cards. Hunters only have the 1 sound barrier. Gaga might even die.
Ooh, Gaga trying to back off. You see Kron getting set up into position with 3 members of the Hunters in that side room. He's got the Rampage, though, as he backs off. Jinmu would leave now, going to be able to clean up everybody who tried to back off and back up Kron, rather, wiping up the charge, and they needed that extra time because there's still that minute, almost less than a minute now on the clock here, Avril.
That might be a little bit fatal in terms of move by Guangzhou Charge. You actually see that Krong oversteps a little bit to chase down Gaga. He noted that Gaga was below, I think, 1/3 HP at one point. Tried to cut him off and get a nice carnage hit in. He gets a reasonable carnage in, but it puts him way out of position, and Charge couldn't really do too much there unless they wanted to sound barrier. They'll use the sound barrier now to block out most of the damage from that Rampage, and Choi will go nuts on the blade.
That was beautiful right there, too, because now Choi punishes the Hunters for overextending to try to prevent the charge from getting back onto the payload with that limited time that they have, 30 seconds on the clock, and he's still going. Now he's going to be able to push them into their point, while the Hunters are going to be able to come in. And yeah, they can cap right now here, too. You see the desperate spots, but they won't be able to touch just in time, minus that sound barrier from Nisha. Actually reverses the situation. Huge Rampage, though, forces Gaga to die here off to the side of the point, and the charge do manage to take that payload to the finish line.
And because the payload was so close, right, as soon as Hunters start losing members and Charge get a player advantage, they immediately rush the payload, start rushing towards spawn as well. Hunters can't disengage or wait for respawners there. They just have to play the fight with 1 man down. Jimmy goes for the hero blade. Not going to work out. Jimmy snipes him down. He's in clear it and just shut down straight away. No blade. Rampage solo onto Gaga, but it's enough because you delete the tank. Nisha sound barrier will do nothing there. I don't even know if he even caught Gaga with the sound barrier. Chengdu Hunters not going to be able to hold down C. 15 seconds remaining is not the most incredible time bank, but I think just capping on Junkertown is pretty impressive. Really credit to Charge and how they sort of work that last 2:30 because they can't beat with 2:30 remaining, and it ends up being barely enough time. So just take a look at one of the final fights here. Again, you have very low members on the what is Guangzhou Charge, and there's only just a small brief window of option there for Charge to think about using sound barrier. They opt to save, and well, they still had enough time to play through. So when you opt to save ultimates and play for a future fight, you have to be very aware of how much time you have remaining and how many fights you can still play through. And while Charge had enough fights left, they had enough time.
Hunters kind of approached similarly to the way that they approached the end of Hollywood there too, just to stagger while they wanted to desperately try to force the charge off of that corner by where the finish line is here. Charge now going to be able to get that payload to the finish line. 15 seconds that they were able to accomplish that here as the Hunters now going to be able to leave the spawn room door, see what's going on with the charge holding their position on the high ground.
Sonic arrow towards the right side, so they'll check that. It's basically clear. Far away takes a lot of damage. Jimmu has no further dash to go through.
Wow.
2v1 trade. This works for the Hunters.
Disruptor shot controlled so much of that space over to the side, taking care of Jimmy after falling already low. Leave though,
that's
right?
nice.
Taking some of those nice shots coming in from the air. Gotta give it to him here too, as the Hunters are gonna be able to have some of that extra time though to be able to round that next corner.
Yeah, Charge should still be able to get this forward defense though. There's nothing really there for Lee to even go up. He'll just get some pot shots in the charge and early rail. Hunters will try and slow down the charge, reasonable damage on the DPSs, but the payload positioning is the most important thing. Charge need to get to the payload soon, or not get there at all because Jimmy's dead.
Jimmy's gone out by Nisha's hands here. You can see now
in the open.
The way that the Hunters are positioned actually right there was wrapped around the building.
And Charge haven't recovered. They're going to go for the 4v5, but they're waiting for Xerneas. This is going to be a cap, and Charge, the hand has been kind of forced here. They need to go for something. Jimmy's even back onto a Widowmaker. And it's the cap.
So low. Yep, that's going to be the first point right here going in favor of the Hunters. The way that the Charge were trying to desperately play around that building was insane. Jinmu has been able to take care of the rest of Hunters.
It's just indecision. This is kind of what I criticized the Hunters for on Hollywood. It's indecision from Charge in that situation where they're 4v5, but they're kind of just chilling out, and Hunters have control of the payload, so they're saying, well, we're just going to keep free pushing until Charge do something here. We are aware of their positioning. We know Jimmy's coming back from spawn. He comes back on a Widowmaker, and I don't think he even had an angle to take a shot, and it just ends up being Charge, being cleaned up eventually anyway, and they don't get to contest, so a very unfortunate way to end A, but if you're looking through from the Hunter's POV, that's exactly the start you want.
Especially cleaning up and having that early momentum here for this push. See, Jinmu does have that blade ready. Taking control over the pace. Now he's going to be able to dive in too. Going to be able to have that shield to help put him into that place. He's going to be able to find far away first. That's going to be huge. Won't be able to build into that rally for that next point as they are going to try to defend that next corner. Jinmu, though, taking some of these off angles to try to clean up Krong as he falls low. He does so successfully. 2 left for the charge, and they're going to have to wait for the rest of the charge to regroup.
But be careful not to lose Choi here as well. Both Genjis use the dashes, so Jinmu can't catch him anymore. Should be enough free push here. As the players at charge do come back in, it seems like they're too far away. They won't be too far away, so this will be a monstrous time back. 5:17. That is, I think, double the time that Charge had on the exact same point. I think Charge is something like 2:30 walking in C. Hunters have 5:10.
Be rough here because now the Charge are on the high ground right now. They're going to try to contest the Hunters, but the Hunters have so many ultimates here. Minus Jinmu, who gets taken out by Choice of One. Here comes the rally here too. Rally for rally. Sturdy's to the belt to get that sound barrier.
Oh my
he's just
God.
waiting patiently, waiting for the opportunity. And Choice of One gets shut down in the middle of using that blade. Leaving Gaga, getting the follow-up as the skirmish in the room spells chaos for everybody. You see Jimmy trying to run away with his life, but he can't get away in time. And the Hunters, where was this? This is exactly what we need to see. And you can see that the Charge seems so disorganized right now.
And Smiles come on the face of Hunters as well. They know they're in the lead. They know they just want an incredible fight and leave. Shutting down Choice One mid-blade. Is that a blade jacks? I don't know even know what to call that at this stage. We're seeing a lot of ultimates just cancelled, and a brilliant way to do it as well. Jinmu had a blade cancelled a little bit earlier from, I believe, Jimmy in a combination of another player. And this time it'll be Leave that gets the dirty job done. And Chengdu Hunters already on the final corner, looking towards the final stretch, still with a ton of time remaining, by the way.
4-minute huge time bank right here. I'm also looking at Nisha with that sound barrier. You see the Rampage online for Gaga. Same thing could be said about the Charge here, but the fact that they want to hold this high ground here, Jinmu's going to be able to try to get that first blade ready with the way that he's going to be able to get aggressive. Here comes that shout, getting the Hunters into that position as the Rampage comes in, finds Choice of One and Jimmy, but it's forced out the sound barrier. Now they would only have far away with the rally eventually to try to help contest them, but Gaga gets taken out. Jinmu with that Rampage, he got hit with the anti, he won't be able to get any help, and now Jimmy's going to clean up the support lineup in the back from the Hunters.
I don't believe Gaga got the sound barrier there. He dies pretty quick. And Nisha ends up going a forehand sound barrier. Instead, it's that Rampage coming through on Krong that ends up being so deadly. Nisha obviously wanted to wait for the Rampage. He didn't just want to blow a tempo sound barrier and allow Krong to hold on to the Rampage. But unfortunately, because they lose Gaga there, the four-man sound barrier is not going to do too much for them. What does come through as a silver lining for the Hunters is that because Xerneas has no beat, Jinmu gets to use a free blade to great success so far.
Amazing timing on that here too. Is he going to just back away, try to get back to the high ground and try to stop the Charge here over to the side? See reflect for reflect though as Jinmu's going to be able to get back away. He knows that the Charge are split up a bit as Jimmy quickly swaps over to the Ashe. Now as the Ashe is online here and the payload is right there close to the finish line. You can see the Hunters skirmishing over to the side route. So much chaos, the rally gets put up, but Xerneas gets taken down first. Everyone gets deleted by Leave and the rally was all for naught.
I don't even know how Leave sees players through all of that chaos there. He somehow perceives it through the matrix, just green lines of text coming down on the screen, because he's just able to snipe players through other players apparently, but they'll do it. Chengdu Hunters cleanly get a full cap on Junkertown with a lot more time than the Guangzhou Charge. 3:22 now just to the one. Charge blade down maybe a minute 30, about 2 minutes off of Hunter's time bank, but Hunters had, again, they had over 5 minutes walking to see. That is a monstrous way to get through it. And so much this comes down to the early snowballing from A and, you know, what I'm going to go back to, which was a pretty egregious mistake from the Chargers. Again, the indecision on A really having trickled through into further advantages for the Hunters. That's probably the worst way to lose a fight, where you don't really engage, you don't really do anything, then you lose the fight eventually anyway, and you don't slow down the payload and nothing really happens. Yeah, that can't happen again for the Charge. Similar things did kind of happen for Hunters on Hollywood, and we saw what happened on that map. So Hunters, we talk about them bringing the game back, maybe making things competitive, winning a map, thinking about getting the reverse sweep train started. This is the pathway to get that done.
Especially with the way that they were able to get that 3 minutes 22 seconds in their time bank. believe they were really only held back just slightly once in that point C by the charge. It was kind of a snowball at that point. Once they were able to get that payload for that first point, like you mentioned before, they just had so much momentum on their side. A few mistakes there from the charge really cost them some of that time bank that they wanted to try to take advantage of here now too, as Choice of One going to try to take that nice flanking position here over to the side, but having to be careful, playing a little bit more passive here.
Jimmy's going to start on the Ashe here, so he ended on the Ashe for the C defense, so begin with it. And remember, the last time Hunters lost A, Gaga got caught out here and couldn't retreat, so this time it'll be Leave. It's somebody from the Hunters. They play the same position and they will get punished in the same position. This is reminding me of the Hollywood A defense all over again, where Hunters are not connected on the disengage. 4 members of the Hunters are gone, and Leave, for some reason, is still caught in a position that's exposed, and he will get punished for it. Now Hunters reset.
And it looked like Nisha there was also trying to help out Leave, which cost his life, and now with the charge, going to be able to take control over that next corner. The time bank already whittling away before they try to get to that first point. The Hunters, though,
Charge
with the speed boost, are going to be able to move it to the back.
Charge desperately need a cap because the time bank difference is immense. Overtime's already in.
Overtime ticking around right now. Gaga now going to be able to try to get into that position with that shout, try to put the Hunters back into that position here too. Leave a contested onto high ground before Leave now dives in here. Far away, close to that rally. They don't have the sound barrier though for the sustainability. Jinmu gets taken out. Leave falls incredibly low. Monk and Nisha are trying to desperately keep the rest of the team alive with that shout. It can at least keep Monk and Nisha in. Gaga should help actually retaliate, swap things around, but the overtime sticking around, which means that the charge needs to stay on this payload. They cannot get off as Jimmy's going to stay there. He's got the Bob ready, and the rally here too going to be called in from Monk. The Hunters between Monk, Nisha, and Gaga had stayed alive for so long as Gaga finally gets taken out.
Monk's doing it. Farway's gone for a really late rally here as well, but can they get enough members? The Bob does some work to at least contest, well, it doesn't contest the payload, but does some reasonable damage. The overtime is still ticking away here. Charge cannot get off the payload, and Hunters coming in. Touch, oh my god, they barely touch in time. Charge still keeping it alive. Watch the blade though. Blade's coming online, both teams.
It's going to be huge right here. Jinwoo's going to be able to pop the blade right now. Space One not there just yet. It would be huge if he could find him first here. Xerneas gets taken out.
Oh,
he won't be able to survive. Then they find Nisha again. And now Jinwoo's going to be able to stay alive here at the same time. Now, unfortunately for Choice of One, he was not able to utilize that blade. He got shot down immediately there, Avril.
And that's it. That's the time card. That's going to be the hold coming through from the Hunters and Choice of One. Whew. 2 blades in a row, I think. Or not quite in a row. No, it might have been in a row. He just gets shut down. And this time it's Jinmu who finds him, sees Choi pulling the blade, gets a slash into an immediately dash reset kill. And Choi Se-1, no chance to help the Guangzhou charge there. Jimmy, desperate to touch on, even the Widowmaker gets turned around on. And the Guangzhou charge, despite all their efforts, they even had a Bob during that fight. And it's not enough. The Bob wasn't enough to help them win, despite the extra damage coming in. It's Hunters staying alive, staying strong. They only had 3 members, I believe. It was 3v4 at one stage, right? It was Gaga, Monk, Nisha versus 4 members of Charge. Can't remember which one actually died. Maybe Jimmy died and came back in the Widow. That's probably it. And Monk and Nisha in particular built up support ultimates. It was Xerneas and Farwa that kind of burnt ultimates first. Xerneas in particular. Farwa actually held on to the rally. Monk and Nisha then came back with ultimates as Hunter started flooding it back for the retake. Farwa goes for a later rally, but it's not enough to help the Charge members get these kills. And when the dust settles and we pull the 2 blades, Jinmu had his blade about 5-ish% earlier. Pulls the blade just slightly earlier, gets the damage done. The most important kill, though, again, was on Choi's blade that Choi never got off the ground.
Absolutely huge there. Love how you pinpointed the survivability of Monk, Nisha, and Gaga. Gaga did go down around the end before the second wave of the Hunters came back, but Gaga lived long enough to allow Monk and Nisha to get value off of that rally and sound barrier. Now the Charge, though, with their limited time, have to deal with 3 minutes and less than 15 seconds from the Hunters, who have all the time in the world to try to get that to that point. Oh no, Gaga gets taken down again the same way. Again, though, he was in that same spot when they were first on the attack.
And none of his team was there. It's just a really weird start for the Hunters where, I mean, we did have kind of Monk flanking around this backside and then Gaga pushing up and, you know, maybe they think about collapsing, but you don't collapse in 2v5. You need the rest of the team there. They didn't get it far away. Now it's caught out. Farway's in the wrong corner.
See the shout here too. Farway falling incredibly low. Can he make it out here as he gets sustained by Xerneas? The fact that he's alive is insane here, but great in terms of that ult charge from Xerneas, already at 42%. Jinmu already in the backline as he dives in. Nice way to, and waits to actually try to contest Jimmy, but Jimmy gets cornered in the room as Monk takes him out, cleans him up. It's a trade though for Jimmy and Leave. So that spawn advantage is going to go in favor of the Hunters. So Leave is going to get right back into the fray immediately. Monk gets taken out by Choice of One. And the Charge now having to play around this payload, knowing very well here with the limited time back that they need to stay contested, but don't want to overextend.
It's a good contest up until this point. Leave will shut it down, but it was looking good until Leave says no. The push will damn well continue at this stage, and you know, with the 4v4, eventually it will become a 5v4 for the Hunters, given that their spawn is right around the corner. Every member of Charge has to come back from super far away, and now the real push begins. Charge do shave off the first minute, so we're down to below 2 now for the Hunters. Charge still have a lot of work to do.
This is a tricky point though now. You're trying to get out of the choke point, and Jacob dives in by Choice of One, gets the reset, gets the blade, gets Jimmy. All that time that they whittled away at the very beginning now, Avro, off the table. Now the sound barrier comes in from Nisha, and the Hunters are looking to close this up, trying to take us to another map now as the rally from far away gets popped. Charge is trying to desperately stay on top of the high ground. This can turn things around here, but they need to touch the point. They need to contest before it gets that finish line.
And Nisha went down this. It's a 4v5. You can see that Charge actually have all 5 about to come on through. Maybe a little bit of a overstep from Nisha there. Choi will finally get a blade. It's a beautiful one. He's finally got the blade he's been waiting for. That's got to give Charge the opportunity to come back in towards the game. A minute remaining, and it is still winnable for the Charge. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they have recovered. Charge have somehow stabilized.
That was absolutely huge there too, because Monk was unable to use that rally. He's going to come in for that next fight here, but the positioning from Choice One was amazing there to get the dive, gets that quick little 3K here. Now the Hunters, for the time whittling away. Yeah, the Rampage too. Less than a minute now on the clock though. You got to look at Krong with that Rampage, trying to match out with Gaga as the rally now coming in from Monk. You see that Adrel coming in, you see the shout. Nice Rampage finding 3 though, tries to negate that extra healing from Monk, but can't nail down Monk. Does put Leave really low right here too. Choice of One now trying to clean him up. He does find Leave. Won't be able to use that ult. He's also going to be able to be the last DPS left here for the Hunters. Here comes another shout here from Krong. And yeah, now you're going to be able to have to look out for the Rampage from Gaga. He just pushes in. Farway gets taken out. Xerneas gets hit with the Rampage. So does Krong. Oh, they need to stay on this point here, but Choice of One going crazy, Avril.
And this might be a Charge. I've got this. Hunters have nobody alive. It's just Leave. Leave trying to come on in. Choi's got him down, and that will be the hold. Charge have managed to get the 3-0. It was looking impossible. They had 1/3 of the time back the Hunters had, but it's enough. Enough fights won, and Hunters cannot get it across the line. They got so damn close to getting that cap and taking us to a 4th and potentially even final map, depending on whether Chengdu could have taken us even further than that. It was a great effort. This looked like it was Hunters' map. It looked like Hunters had this one locked down, but Charge, they stabilized, they recovered in the OT, and they did the impossible, and they will get the 3-0.
What I'm so impressed to say here, Avril, was Choice of One and how important Choice of One was at the very end there too. Not just with the blade, but then he was able to help the rest of the Charge reposition. You saw the sigh of relief from far away. He looked almost surprised. They got to celebrate, got some high fives going in, but the Hunters were so close to turn that around and potentially even maybe get a reverse sweep real quick on the series, because that's how that momentum builds, especially with a team like the Hunters.
Yeah, I have to go back to, I think, the moment for me that really changed everything in the OT was Nisha trying to chase around the back against the Charge, kind of solo there. Farway pops a rally, and you just have the support 1v1. And that's kind of everything for the Charge. It's Farway's entire journey on the Gonjo Charge so far, in the sense it's like, you know, he was cut from the team. He started out on the Charge at the start of the year. They've struggled for so long, and the culmination of all of that pain and suffering now giving them the ability to make the Summer Showdown, beating the Chengdu Hunters 3-0, their former team as well. Farway killing Nisha, and then them completing the defense, and that is just going to be sweet victory for the Charge. And you know, one of the main members that I think really showed up today to give them that sweet victory is Choice One. Yeah, he got a couple of blades shut down there towards the end, courtesy of Jinmu and Lee, but for the rest of the game, and starting out here, this 1v1 versus Jinmu, this set the stage for everything. Wins on that on 12 HP, by the way, and because he kills Jinmu there, who I think actually had a favorable matchup, that gave so much momentum to the Charge to clean up Lijiang Tower. Hollywood was more domination for Choice One. Junket Town was a lot of struggling for the Charge, but the fact that they come back and recover is amazing.
Better late than never at the very end of that map. Of course, they were already up 2 maps in the series there too. They just needed to find their footing, but Choice of One making the adjustments, not only dealing with the Far Unleash on the first map there too immediately, and with the fact that Choice of One was able to retaliate quickly from that point C on Hollywood with the Tracer, but at the very end, those blades came in clutch, and Choice of One, despite having a bit of a rough time at the start of Junkertown with some of those blades and getting the impact that he wanted, still came through at the very end. Looking at the stats right now, over 36,000 damage done here. The ult kills though with the blade, 15 kills. Fantastic looking like for Choice of One, but the 48 final blows and the 99 eliminations are the cherry on top for this player.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, looking back over all 3 maps, Choi was top fragger, top final blows for all 3 maps played. So across the board in the server, across 10 players, all 3 maps, highest final blows. The impact found today was incredible. So that 48 total, that's more than what anybody else got over the course of 3 maps. What a brilliant day for the Guangzhou Charge. And honestly, everybody kind of stepped up here. You know, it's no longer just kind of the Jimmy show. I think it started this stage with mostly being the Jimmy show, and now the rest of the Guangzhou Charge is showing up as well, and they're getting ready to take on the Summer Showdown. I haven't done the maths yet, so I don't know if they are 100% qualified, but like I said, the scoreline they're aiming for is at least 3 wins. They got the 3 wins, and at this stage, I'm pretty sure they can't get knocked down, so they should be top 4.
I believe their next opponents would be the Spark, which would be tomorrow, so that's going to be really exciting.
Yep.
If you guys enjoyed watching the Charge, you definitely want to make sure you take a look at that next series. But that's tomorrow. We still got one more series on our hands, Avril. That's going to be the Shanghai Dragons versus the LA Valiant. That's going to be interesting nonetheless, but that's going to be after this break, so you guys don't want to miss it. Stay tuned, because we got some more APAC action for you here in the Overwatch League.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, everyone, here to the Overwatch League. What a first series we had. I honestly thought, Avro, that was going to go the distance, but I think that should further highlight what the competition's looking like, especially when you take a look at the Genjis here in the East. I mean, they're built different, but if you're looking for any more Genjis that are built different, don't look too hard, because we got this next series on our hands between the Shanghai Dragons and the LA Valiant. I know we were talking about it before, but I'm excited to see some more Who Are You action.
Yeah, he'll be coming up really, really soon. That'll be a really interesting way for both of those teams to try and finish this Summer Showdown qualifier. But speaking of finishing the Summer Showdown qualifier, I mean, both Hunters and Charge have a game left to play. This is now in the replay. We see how Nisha actually got Ajax and via Zernius booping him to the air. So confirmed there that was somebody booping him. That's kind of what I felt, because he was in the air for so long when I was looking at the HUD. In either case, I did do a little bit of background maths as we were in the break there, and just so that we are very clear on what qualification pathways look like. Charge are not 100% safe on 3 wins here. I think they would be. Yeah, they would be if they had 4 wins. So if Charge beat the Spark in their next game, they'd be fine. But the way this works out currently, there's still a world out there where if 3 teams end up in a 3-3 tiebreaker, so 3 teams have a scoreline of 3-3, 3 wins, 3 losses, then you can get a tiebreaker between Spark Hunters Charge or Hunters Charge Fusion, right? It would require those teams to still recover and play those games, and if they have a better scoreline in terms of map differential than the Charge, then there's a problem there where Charge might lose the tiebreaker and lose out on that 4th position or even the 3rd position. So you'd have Dragons and Dynasty already clinched, obviously, and then 2 out of those 3 teams in that 3-3 tiebreaker make it in, the third one doesn't make it in. So Charge need to make sure that even if they do lose to Spark in their game, the scoreline is really good. So scoreline does matter. The worst possible result for them is to go 0-3, and that would really be costly. But I think for the most part, 3-3 is a safe scoreline unless 2 other teams also get 3-3.
We're gonna have to see. That's why it's so close. Look, even like if you see it coming in from left field, the Valiant, let's say, right? Let's say if they come out on top and suddenly they take it over the Dragons here, that would be not only an interesting way to start off the last week of the Summer Showdown qualifiers, but that would really mix things up here in the stage standings. We got that series though coming up next: Shanghai Dragons versus the LA Valiant. It's gonna be a good time here, Avril.
It will be. We'll see how it goes after this break.
Welcome back, everyone, to the last series that we have on our hands here in the APAC region for the last week here for the Summer Showdown Qualifiers. I'm excited, Alvaro, after that first series that we had on our hands. We highlighted exactly what we're looking forward to, though, looking at the Shanghai Dragons versus the LA Valiant.
It's been a tough stage so far for the LA Valiant. They are currently winless. They haven't gotten a single win so far, 0-4. They got a lot of maps in there, and you know their map differential doesn't look that bad, given that their scoreline is 0-4. But it's because they keep going to map 5s against teams. I mean, they had a map 5 versus Fusion. They had a map 5 versus the Guangzhou Charge. And then, well, they also had a 0-3 versus Seoul, but that's versus Seoul. That's kind of understandable. They took one map versus Spark, couldn't take that one to 5. So far, though, they just haven't had the greatest of chances to qualify through. But here's the crazy thing, Vicky. I've done the maths here for qualification. It is still not impossible for the Valiant to make the tournament. There's a line of play for them to make the tournament, and it would require them to basically be in either a 3-way or a 4-way tie between other teams in a 2-4 scoreline. The best scoreline now that they can get is 2-4. That would require them to beat Shanghai today in this matchup, and would require them to win against the Chengdu Hunters in the other matchup there as well. Chengdu look kind of beatable right now, especially given the performance today. However, Shanghai, I don't know if they look beatable. So really, for Valiant, they need to win big today. Hopes that some other teams win and lose in very specific ways to end up in a 2-4 scoreline, and only then is it possible for Valiant's dreams to come alive and finally make a tournament, because they haven't made a tournament this entire year.
It's unfortunate too, because they started really kicking things up a bit. But when you have to go against the Dragons here on a weekend where it means everything, whether you qualify or not, this could spell doom. Very similar to the series that they had with Seoul. These two teams, Seoul and the Shanghai Dragons, have just been dominating the APAC region so far. They've honestly just are on a different level. If I could put them just above the rest, it's just there's like 2 tier breaks basically with where this team is, because they've just been dominating. They've been dominating. They really seem like the 2 teams that have nailed down the meta right now with the Junker Queen. And I feel like right now with what we're expecting from the Dragons, it's going to be incredibly difficult for the LA Valiant to really put themselves on board to at least try to achieve that tiebreaker.
And that's the thing, right? Because they needed to win versus somebody else, and they had 2 very close calls in terms of trying to win versus somebody else, and it just hasn't happened. And now one of those 2 wins has to come from the Dragons, and it's difficult imagining the Dragons losing the series given how far ahead in the meta they seem compared to everybody else. Their team is on a different level, as you mentioned. Them with Seoul, Dragons have only dropped a single map so far. It's looking more than an uphill battle, to be honest, for the LA Valiant. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because there can be miracles out here, but you can also, I guess, buy a lottery ticket. It's not impossible, but it's going to be pretty tough out there. Let's take a look at the starting lineups here, as I don't think there'll be any surprises. Both teams have played the exact same players with no substitutions over the course of the entire stage. You already know how it's going to be. Void on the Junker Queen. Who are you coming through on the Genji? And I know how much you'd like to see the Genji plays out there, Vicky. Who are you right now is, I think, at the top of the list.
Absolutely, with those amazing Genji plays. And we have to talk about Void. When you mentioned Void as Junker Queen, the insane survivability that he's got on Junker Queen is just another level. This entire team has just been dominating for a reason. There's a reason why they're currently number 2 in the overall standing. So excited to see how this is going to play out here for the Dragons, if they're looking to try to just wrap things up. Another day at work for them to walk away, or the Valiant really going to come out of left field for us to see.
Yeah, Dragons, really the scoreline here is, if you want to be talking realistically, what should be happening here, we should be talking about scorelines, because Seoul did beat Valiant 3-0. Dragons are trying to catch up to Seoul. They're trying to make sure that they are on equal footing with Seoul. Likely how it's going to round out is whoever wins in the Dragon-Seoul matchup at the end of the qualifiers here will be the first seed. So that's the most important thing, but also getting some confidence here. Make sure they're not losing too hard to the Valiant is important here as well. Let's take a look at the Valiant side and the competition on the other end. You talked about Void on the Junker Queen. I think one of the hidden gems of the Overwatch League so far in this sort of stage is Dia's role swap over towards the Junker Queen himself. That's been quite a pleasant surprise, and Dia's looked like one of the better Junker Queens, and sure, Valiant's had their rough moments as well, but generally speaking, I think Dia's been leading the charge. He's been kind of quite a force to be reckoned with on this Junker Queen. There is one interesting thing that I'm going to bring up here, and is that we are going to be seeing Molly. So a substitution coming in play for the LA Valiant. They actually haven't been playing with Molly in this particular meta so far. It's been Sashin and Lengset together. Sashin had also role swap from tank over towards support. Sashin actually played DPS at one stage, so now he's playing his third role, right? He was playing the Brig. Lengset was playing the Lucio. So I guess this means Molly's playing the Brig. Lengset will stay on the Lucio. And Molly will debut in this stage finally.
Gonna have to see. Making some of those swaps, though, I'm wondering, what do you think here, Avril, with making that swap with Sasha not being the one starting off things off with LA Valiant? What they're maybe expecting from Molly here?
I think they're just maybe losing a bit of confidence in Sashin's Brig. I don't know if that is the sore point for the team, but clearly the team is not quite working out the way they want it to work out, so they're thinking, okay, well, we have Molly available, he is a support player. A lot of other teams, in fact most other teams, have played their flex support on the Brig. Can't really go wrong here. This is a Dragons game. Valiant know that they're probably not expected to beat the Dragons, so it would be a huge upset if they were able to beat the Dragons. Why not give Molly a go? You know, this is kind of warm-up for them to try and take down the Hunters. I think for them it's just about getting league points, right? Even if they don't make the tournament, which is a likelihood that they probably won't make the tournament, the important thing is to work towards the end of season where, again, you're trying to avoid 7th place, and Charge just got 1 extra point today to get ahead of the Valiant. So now Charge have actually escaped 7th place. Valiant are currently in the standings in APAC in 7th for the entire season. So Valiant need to catch up. They need to beat the Hunters as well. And if they want to keep running Molly, this will be the first kind of test for Molly. Very difficult test, mind you, but it is a time that they can at least try something different.
It's going to be important there, too, to note, because with the Charge and the Valiant being so close together in the overall standings, now that you want to work towards that overall score, that's really the one thing that they have to keep in mind is the Charge and the Hunters being those two teams that they want to make sure that don't get too ahead of them, especially if the Charge actually end up being the team to make it into the Summer Showdown tournament. So that's going to be extra the points for them. They're going to be able to feel more secure in the overall standings, and the LA Valiant need to start focusing on the later game here.
And the other interesting thing about this as well is that there's a bunch of members from Valiant that actually have a bit of connection to Shanghai. Notably, we're talking about Dia here, but also Molly. Both of these players actually played for Shanghai at various points. Molly was with the Shanghai Dragons last year. Technically, he has a win with them. He's got an entire championship ring from the Overwatch League. Dia was with them in the first 2 seasons, mostly benched in the 2nd season there. But even guys like Easyhan, who play for Team CC, that was the Shanghai Dragons Academy team. They got Innovation on the bench who play for Team CC as well, so a little bit of connection here. We had some connection between Guangzhou and Chengdu Hunters. That was a very obvious connection, being that 8 of those players had played together last year. But here as well, just a little bit of friendly cross integration between players have moved between teams.
We've been seeing that a lot today, haven't we, Avro? It's been interesting nonetheless, because I also feel like it adds in that extra spice to kind of make things fun here for a lot of our players. But there is a lot on the line, and once again, this is the last week to qualify into the Summer Showdown tournament. So a lot on the table here, but it's that extra stress that I would be feeling if I were the LA Valiant right now, especially if you have to go against a team like the Dragons as your first series to open up the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's on some level you're stressed, but on some level this is the one game that you can sort of chill out a little bit. Not to say that they won't give it their best; they absolutely will be giving it their best. And if they can take any maps away, that's a huge win because in that sort of battle with Guangzhou, trying to escape 7th place, if they do end up with the same scoreline, map differential and tiebreakers come into play, right? So Valiant have been good at least getting maps off of other teams. That's been one of their strengths, even if they don't necessarily win all the matches. So yeah, this is the one again where they don't necessarily expect to win, but it is a practice run up against Hunters later on, which is going to be an important game for standings. So I don't know that they're going to be super stressed out about this game. They'll give it their best, see what happens, try and make it upset happen. But if it doesn't happen, then you can't be too upset about it. So
We're going to see how this plays out here as we get set up. Our players are getting ready to go. quick recap of that first series. Surprised it did end in a 3-0. I was expecting it to go the distance before preparing us for the series that we're about to dive into between the Dragons and the Valiant. Wondering how many maps the Valiant could at least try to claim off of the Dragons and see if they even have that opportunity. Like you mentioned, they've been doing really well at least taking some of these maps away from some of these higher end teams. But when it comes to the Dragons, again, just a different beast next to Seoul on the level of where the other APAC teams have been. And I do think that has to go down to the way that the Dragons and the Dynasty have been able to approach this meta. I feel like they just have a lot more of an understanding. But honestly, with the way that we're currently seeing teams like Charge and making some of these roster changes, and the way that we're seeing Choice of One, for example, pop off Jimmy as well right behind him, I feel like it's kind of allowing these other teams now to really kick things up a lot to try to catch up.
And this also might be the final time you get to see the players of the Valiant have these role swaps as well, because I think going into next meta with Junker Queen looking to be quite heavily nerfed, or just be nerfed enough that she probably won't end up being a vital place in the meta anymore. We're not going to see the Dia Queen, so this is the last weekend of games where the Dia Queen is going to be a factor. And, you know, hopefully they all get at least one win, but unfortunately that would mean that they have to beat the Chengdu Hunters. Well, it's great for Valiant. It would be a sad way for Hunters to bow out, considering they were in a very good position to at least lock up third place, and now, you know, they'll be still kind of in contention for third place, but also looking at the fourth place there as well if they can get it. We'll just have to see how far they slide down, if they do it at all. Valiant are a really wild card team in this region. I think it really speaks heavily to the competitiveness of the region, in the sense that outside of Seoul and Shanghai in this particular meta in this stage, the other 5 teams are equally trading games at all points. Anybody can beat anybody. Nobody is safe. There are no free games. Even the LA Valiant's not a free game, because 2 teams had to go to 5 maps to beat the Valiant. That's definitely not a free game. That is a very contentious and difficult game to play. Valiant can surprise at any sort of point. We'll just come down to this series today versus the Shanghai Dragons. Are there any surprises? Can we see something here that makes Shanghai Dragons a little bit worried? Can Valiant upset the Dragons? Can they slay the Dragons? Can anybody be the Dragon Slayers?
I don't know about that. We're going to have to see. I love how you mentioned the wildcard point, because I feel like that's a lot of APAC. Philly Fusion come to mind when I think about wildcard teams, just with the way that, you know, Philly does what Philly wants at the end of the day. But LA Valiant, like you mentioned, has been able to claim a lot of maps from a lot of these other teams, even taking that one map away from the Spark earlier on, going into that Game 5 versus Philly. And it's interesting to see how this is going to play out, if they are going to be able to do something similar like that to the Dragons, because every map counts at the end if you want to actually play for that long run in the overall standings.
Yep. And I think Dragons losing maps here would be a little bit awkward, but it wouldn't be the end of their run. Well, it definitely wouldn't be the end of their run for this tournament, but it won't be super damaging for their battle for first place seeding-wise, because, again, the most important result to challenge that is going to be their game versus Seoul down the line. But for now, this should be, for the Dragons, a bit of a warm-up game if things go as expected. So far, things, at least in the lineup, are as expected. Thanks to Lucio, Molly over towards the Brig, replacing Sashin today, and maybe for the rest of the weekend here as well, Shanghai. Getting a bit of early damage. DJ gone in trouble, but Lip gets the first frag.
Welcome, Molly. Hope you're enjoying your stay here real quick, as he's the first one exiting out of this fight. Becky's going to follow shortly afterwards. Who are you? Already diving all the way in, leaving Dia low, leaving Linksa to back away, actually managing to survive, but the proing is going to be able to go in favor of the Dragons with a number advantage being on their side.
Yep, Lee Jae-gon surviving. This guy also really likes to play at the edge, right? Where the edge between I'm about to feed versus I'm about to do something godlike, and it will be Lip getting that first kill. Lee Jae-gon survives. No deaths on the Dragons so far, as they get 3 frags, so Valiant will at least walk away with 2 alive when all is said and done. Dragons expectedly is going to be quite far ahead in some of the important ultimates.
Here comes that shout. Here comes that aggressive approach here from Who Are You. You're going to have to respect that disruptor shot a little bit before diving in, and that speed boost too to help enable Who Are You. Becky gets taken down, and so does Easy Han, and the Valiant are already getting pushed all the way back to their spawn. Void collects 2 here too, and the Dragons looking like they are chilling. Look at those player cams too, going right back to the point.
It's another 3 kills, another 0 deaths. And Dragons now getting all the ultimates that they need. Who Are You is well ahead of Becky. The only play on Valiant that's maybe ahead here is actually Dia versus Void, but maybe that's just the fight's ending too early for Void to do too much about it. Who Are You carrying out?
Carrying out with the blade and carrying Becky back to the spawn here too before diving in, trying to maybe go for an opportunity with the reset here too, but the follow from Void to help enable Who Are You. This two duo, as just players on the Dragons, are just so scary. See Leisure Gong going to be able to boost them all the way back to the next choke point, and it's rinse and repeat here for the Dragons.
Yeah, it'll be Lip going through for the overclock next, and it'll be hard to respond, right? Because if you're Valiant, you really want to use a support ultimate for that. If you don't, it's probably going to be last fight. Molly spins, but he's low already. Lip wants him down.
Ooh, here comes the shout, and here comes the sound barrier too to help keep Molly up and to help get more out of that rally. They do find Who Are You, which is pretty big here for the Valiant to turn things around to at least flip this point. Looking fantastic here. The way that they were able to cycle through the command shout, the sound barrier, and the rally actually has allowed Valiant to get 2 of those picks. Becky still goes down, unfortunately, without being able to utilize that Dragon Blade, but that's fine. You'll be able to go into that next fight with the Blade to hold back the Dragon to the choke point.
Yeah, 94% for the Dragons, but the Valiant do bounce back with the fight win. They double support ultimate there, which in some cases you could argue is a little bit of an over expenditure, and Dragons probably felt the same way, which is why Dragons played that fight so conservatively. They didn't use the sound barrier because they wanted to try and just, you know, live through the double support ultimates being spent by the Valiant, kind of just wait it out. Then if Becky maybe plays with the sound barrier, that's going to happen probably in this fight now.
Or maybe waiting out on the opportunity, maybe trying to wait on the rampage here too from Dia. Yeah, actually just going to play patiently.
They just survive the blade. They just survive it.
Becky playing that incredibly patient though, and now with the Dragon surviving that and still holding on to the sound barrier, this is fantastic news to deal with the rampage, to deal with Easy Han and his ult here too. The Valiant now going to be able to try to take control over the side here, but the Dragons want the high ground. Zihan is going to be able to pop that ult as Dia is going to still hold on to the rampage too. You can see that contention with BJ Gon. Who's the more patient one as the shout from the Dragons comes online? They're going to be able to move all the way down. But the shutdown immediately in his face. They knew the rampage was going to come. They were just waiting for it, Avril.
Watch the cap. It's come through now. Valiant have lost that. They have to touch, but they have no members alive. Liv's cleaned them all up. Liv's just taking control of the game. He destroys Dia. He sends the Valiant down towards the 0-1 mark of that. Shanghai Dragons with a celebratory rampage towards the end there from Void. Will happily collect that one. Look, it's not 100-0. You don't need to dominate your opponents here, but the Dragons still look to be largely ahead of the Valiant at all points. Even just the confidence to survive against a Blade. Becky pulls Blade. Dragon's like, let's disengage. Actually, you know what? Hold the sound barrier. Don't need that for this fight. We can save the sound barrier for a later engagement. They do. And the crazy thing is, Lip killing Dia. Dia still technically hit 2 members, so like it's like not quite a cancel rally, but he doesn't get to launch. He sort of gets maybe a couple centimeters off, just a few inches off from his starting position. Catches 2 members, it'll be Void and Iziaki, maybe Void and somebody. Lijigon still has a sound barrier. Dia's down. Shanghai Dragons huge, just player advantage, and Lip will clean up. Lip had the first blood, by the way, in that previous round. Let's see if he does it again.
Yeah, that was on to Molly earlier here too, as you see Lip now getting into a nice position. You see the Disruptor shot as well to control someone's space. Becky's the one to go down first, but some assistance here coming in from Lip as he also finds Dia. BJ gone on Becky's tail. That's 3 down here for the Valiant. Molly, Lynx are going to be able to try to back away in time as the Dragons win the first team fight again.
Yeah, and just another very comfortable fight win. They didn't drop any members, got a few kills there. They didn't get the full cleanup, but you know, they just take the expected dub, don't over pursue, they don't get overly aggressive. This is not a Shanghai Dragons that's kind of disrespecting the Valiant, right? They're playing super disciplined. And that's what a dangerous Shanghai Dragons looks like, because they're not offering up a lot of avenues to punish them by making mistakes. They're basically just not making any mistakes at all.
Ooh, Lip also finding Easy Han right there as he's forced inside that side room. Becky's gonna punish Lip right there, so it's a trade for trade. Void falling pretty low though, over to the side. Who Are You? Gonna be able to try to heal for a bit as you see Molly now move all the way up. The Valiant finding that pick though, don't really fully initiate here though too. Even Lexa falling low, he is gonna be able to get away in time. But Who Are You putting in so much pressure, forcing the Valiant back a bit here in that next choke point.
Yeah, I think Valiant actually got a kill there as well, but Shanghai just were not to be perturbed as Valiant failed to really capitalize further on that, and now as Molly's felt this rally, he's down. It's at least a trade.
Who Are You goes down as he's about to get that blade. He hasn't coming into that next fight, but this is great look here for Valiant to at least try to get that point once again. Now trying to flip it at 60% here in favor of the Dragons and climbing. Iziaki goes down, so does Void, but they're going to go in. He still managed to get the kill before going down here too. And here at Avril, they're also going to have a plethora of ultimates to work with for that next team fight.
Yeah, Lee Jae-gon will trade 10 seconds of a respawn for, I think, 1 extra percentage there on the cap point, but I think he was probably going to die anyway. Well, actually, I don't know. He is a Lucio. Maybe he can just run away. Shanghai Dragons probably not going to be too concerned there. They'll have the 5 ultimates up in no time. Valiant will make this one a very heavy ultimate trade, though. Oh, especially if Easy Hunt can kill Lip. That actually might be Dragons disengaging. No, they're too deep in. They have to play now.
But it fell so low. Finding the skirmish in the side room has been really detrimental, even with Becky getting it with a huge rampage, finding 4 here. They were still able to keep themselves alive, minus Dia going down here. Now the immediate reverse here, Avro, with Who Are You still being up in this fight. Void going to be able to get a huge rampage, and now here comes the B and the Blade coming in. Becky gets shut down by Void. Void survivability once again has prevailed here as Who Are You are going to clear the stage here with the Blade.
I mean, I talk about Shanghai Dragons not overstepping. They're showing Valiant a lot of respect, but the same on the opposite end is not true here. Valiant get ultra greedy there. They have a major player advantage. They're thinking it's a 5v3. Voice just rampaged us. It's a 4-man rampage, but don't worry about it. Will live. They don't rally. They don't sound bad. Everyone's on low HP after the rampage, and Dragons turn the fight around.
Now they use the rally and in combination with the shout. Dia's being reserved with the rampage before using it right now to try to dive in. Finds 3, pretty big here if they can find Izayaki for trying to get away. Void also falling extremely low. The resustainability though coming in from the Dragons. The fact that they stay up, Void still lives. He's so low. Overtime ticking away. 99%, but the Valiants managed to try to claim the number advantage with Who Are You still taking care of Molly.
Yeah, well, that will finally be the Valiant coming on through, despite the sort of failure to catch Void there. They'll eventually get him. They'll eventually get the cap.
He's alive.
Try and make this one competitive. It's 99-51. Amount of time there. LA Valiant available on either side. Nobody even close to an ult, but the largest and most charged member is Izayaki. But Richie Kong just getting a solo, I believe, onto Easy Hunt. That's might be Dragon's advantage. 4-4.
Jae-gon always in these aggressive positions too to be able to get that follow from Lip too when he gets that big hit. Now it takes care of Lisa. Molly going out. Now the Dragons are about to get right back to the point after clearing the rest of Valiant. That was both of their supports down first. As the overtime ticks away, the Valiant really have nowhere to touch that point. The Dragons with ease take map number 1 here on Busan.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of back and forth there. Some trades did actually happen. Valiant, you know, they're not going to go down without swinging, but most of the part they do miss, and for the most part, Dragons do hit. It is the Shanghai Dragons that are expected taking a 2-0. No 100-0 rounds in there, but for Valiant, man, that is a very interesting scenario where they had something like 4 to 5 ults up, double support ultimates, disrespected Void's rampage, and got heavily punished. I think if it wasn't for that, there would be a fair argument to make about perhaps the concept of LA Valiant getting around, taking us to a 3rd round, going to Sanctuary, seeing what happens here. But yeah, Valiant got a little bit too greedy there. They do get punished, and Shanghai Dragons will be pleased with that.
Even with the way that Becky was playing in that side room, he was able to skirmish with the Dragons really, really well there. But unfortunately, like you mentioned, they didn't really have that respect for the Dragons once Void popped that rampage. It was insanity there too, because it not only was the chaos there, but the sustainability of the rest of the Dragons was also there despite falling incredibly low. That's just the first map though. We got 2 more maps here underway. Map number 2, we are going on to Paraíso, so I'm super excited to see how this plays out. Don't go anywhere, because that's going to be on the other side of this break. welcome back everybody. First map already in the books here between the Dragons and the Valiant, with the Dragons taking a pretty dominating first map there, but there was a little bit of back and forth too, Avril.
Just a little bit of competitiveness, at least in some fights there. You know, it wasn't like a 100-0 sweep or anything like that. We've certainly seen far more dominant displays, but as kind of explained there during the map for the Dragons POV, you know, they're not looking like they're trying to embarrass a Valiant or anything like that, showing a lot of respect towards the Valiant. They're not trying to run into their spawn. They're not trying to overly chase. They're not playing super greedy in a lot of situations. There are some situations where they're definitely trying to hold extra ultimates or anything like that, but all within reason, all within parameters for the Shanghai Dragons. The Valiant, they're trying to get a little bit frisky here, but at the same time, I kind of respect it. I respect that Valiant, understanding that they are the heavy underdogs in this particular series here. They need to be the ones taking risks. They need to be the ones trying to, you know, sneak something through that the Dragons maybe won't punish, but Vicky, this is the Dragons we're talking about. In Dragons, if they're going to do anything, they will punish you if you make mistakes.
And in a map like this, I'm super excited too, because this is where you could get punished really heavily, especially before you get that first point. Paraíso, I got to see you and Leg Day cast on this map just last weekend, and it's nice to be able to see a change of scenery here too for myself, because now this is going to be my first time going to be casting over a beautiful map like this.
And, you know, one of the expectations on a map is, well, for this particular map on Paraíso is you have a very difficult A push, right? It's typically very defender favored. High ground control matters a lot. In fact, it matters enough that Easy Hunt and Becky want some of that long range, right? Easy Hunt wants to potentially snipe. Who are you going towards an Echo? Becky wants to start on the Echo, just to have the extra spam damage, really punish the Dragons as they have to push on through. I do wonder the validity of this Sombra pick from Lip, because what we have seen in the past is Seoul Dynasty like to play Fitz on a Tracer here to get the flank going, to force the defenders on A to go back. Lip's had a couple of options. He looked at the Sombra, he looked at the Widowmaker, took a couple of pot shots even, and it will be the Ashe as the response here, but it does slow things down. If Dragons want to make quick rotation plays, Ashe is not the answer. So it seems like maybe Dragons want to play this A point slowly.
Played into what Valiant has in store for us too. Becky on the Echo as Molly gets taken down immediately. That's not trickiness when it comes to having to go underneath that bridge, but if you get caught sleeping over on the top side and the rest of your team has already rotated out, you're going to be the one that's isolated here, especially if you are dealing with the Dragons, who really take care of that opportunity. Now they're walking onto the point for free here as the Valiant are just waiting.
And you know, they're still here. Valiant are waiting for 5, so Molly's come back now. They give away 2 ticks. They'll instantly come back in. I think there's one Dragons player maybe isolated, and that's going to be Lip.
Ooh. Oh, that was beautiful right there. Nice trade though, no, as Dia's going to be able to get taken down, but it's Who Are You that's been a huge problem from the Dragons. Now the Valiant down 3 members here, make it 4 going counting, and the Dragons are going to be able to take control over this point and already get the payload moving really quick too, and it's that first point that sometimes it ends up being tricky.
It's very much just coming down to Who Are You and his aggression coming through. I said that maybe Dragons wanted to approach that one slowly because they do have the Ashe, while Lip can approach it slowly. He can chill out and sort of snipe from the background, but Who Are You's going to dive straight on in. He's going to get really aggro and he'll get rewarded with a kill into Molly. That's a 5 versus 4. They get 2 ticks for free. Valiant play the 5v5 once Molly arrives, and they even kill Lip, but it's instantly traded out. Dragons get the better of the trades ultimately, and as we move through the streets, should be ultimates coming online. Izuyaki, Who Are You, all looking very healthy towards ults. Becky can get this copy up as well. Typically, you will see the Jungle Queen copy.
And that point B could be tricky here too, with the high ground advantage that you could get in between a lot of these skirmishes inside these buildings, as Who Are You is going to be able to reflect all inside of that small room, backing off ever so slightly. Izuyaki does have that rally though, and Lee Jae-gun does have the Sound Barrier to help match alongside with him here though. So the rally now is going to get called in. Here comes that duplicate that you were mentioning onto the Jungle Queen. See if they can get a lot out of it. Oh, huge actually. Being able to catch Who Are You in the middle of him trying to dive with that Dragon Blade. Amazing timing and the survivability from the Valiant. Thanks to that Sound Barrier was also great in combination with the commanding shout.
That was unreal from Becky. Disgusting knife throw. Just destroys Who Are You. I think Who Are You already ate a shot from somewhere else, because a single knife isn't going to get a kill on a full HP Genji. Who Are You already took some damage, but just a finishing blow. That's extra 10 out of 10 style points from Becky, if anything else. And I was going to say as well, Valiant looked like they were going to be too far behind the support ultimates. Dragons pulled the trigger on the support ultimates early because they have them. But Valiant, off the back of having 2 Jungle Queens, really powerful, double shouts, gives a bit of time for Lynx to also find that Sound Barrier to push on through. And the Shanghai Dragons end up taking a fight loss on the second engagement. Payload didn't make some reasonable movements though, but Valiant have stabilize, or Lip can just get a kill.
It's that first pick that's so important here that Lip usually does, and with Easy Hunt off the board, no Bob. Instead, it's Lip's Bob that's going to answer back as another party here. Not only is he going to help out pushing out the payload, but now Lip is going to be able to try to get onto the high ground if he has the opportunity. You can see the rest of the Valiant actually showing that respect to the Dragons, backing off so that way they can move in with the Bob now, and now they're going to be moving it as a 6-man with the Bob on board. Ooh, here we go, though. Here goes the Rampage there, too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Void's
gonna be able to fight
though.
Void, and who are you? Void gets taken down immediately right afterwards, though, by Dia. It's a trade, though, as who are you is gonna punish him for being able to try to take care of Void. Now you can see the Valiant, though, with this respect. They're playing outside the payload, but the Dragons also just waiting out.
Valiant have closer respawns here, so Dia's going to come back a little bit quicker. Decent connection, but oh my goodness, Becky actually get punished there. I thought Becky was going to have that kill for sure onto Iziaki, but as soon as he tried to go for it, he was booped out. The beam does not connect, and Void goes for the kill. So despite Dia having the closer respawns, Void's back now. This is a 5v4 for the Dragons.
You see if they have the opportunity. Who are you? He's getting close to that blade, but Becky's always close to that duplicate as well. We saw what Becky could do popping that Junker Queen. If he could survive, though, that's the name of the game as Becky gets taken down. Li Jiagang getting into position thanks to that rally from Iziaki. He gets taken down, but it's fine. The rest of the Dragons having this trade after giving up Iziaki are going to be able to try to claim that next point, and now they're going to be able to have some of that extra time. They are now melting through and already pushing all the way up. Look at Li Jiagang. He's going all for Becky, who goes down. Who are you? He's going to help enable him, and they are having some fun, Avril.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is. I said the Dragons were playing respectfully. Maybe the one person that doesn't really fit that is going to be Li Jiagang, right? He is, as I mentioned, he likes to play on the edge between feeding and godlike. So doesn't get punished yet. He is going to survive. In fact, he even sets up the layup for who I'll use to get the slam dunk onto Becky. And the LA Valiant will have to. Well, they have already now waited for the respawn. Becky very close to maybe getting the Void with a
Oh, he gets Void again! Oh man, with that Jagged Blade there too, the duplicate having a lot out of that. The Dragons immediately try to show their respect. That'd be crazy if he actually was able to pull him off of that high ground. That could have been another pick. See Li Jiagang though doing exactly what Avro was calling out. Playing a little too close to the fire when you see the rest of the Dragons have backed off a little bit.
Becky goes for the Rampage there, the duplicated Rampage, and well, he'll miss, but he had no time left anyway. He just kind of throws it out there for fun. Dragons still okay. I think they can still finish this one. The biggest thing here with the Dragons is that despite losing, they've held on to ultimate, so they're still in a couple of spots. Who just needs to make sure he doesn't die during this blade.
Now with this blade here and with the Bob also in retaliation, despite the sound barrier getting put down by the Valiant, Dia won't be able to get saved here. The rally was also used up by Valiant, so a lot of resources forced out of the Valiant, but they will have the Rampage. They do still have the Bob themselves. Dragons also answered back with a plethora of ultimates too, but they wanted to prioritize that high ground position first. Wow.
Another kill from Easy Hunt to Li Jiagang. That's 2 in a row now. I don't actually know where Li Jiagang was. Seems like his corpse is just in the middle there. That's not like extremely far up. I think the rest of the Dragons were there anyway. Maybe it's just Easy Hunt getting one of those shots on a player that he knows he can take him down. But it does force the Dragons back immediately. Dragons don't want any of that. It's going to be a 4v5 until Li Jiagang comes back in. Notable time loss for the Dragons. I'm talking about the Dragons holding on to ultimates and being okay economically. Well, that's not quite there anymore.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. The Rampage, a little overzealous, but coming out on top here from Dia. With that Rampage found 4, I believe. Void gets taken down. Dia is really pushed in front of them, actually managing to survive. Yeah, they helped enable Dia to actually hold the front line, and they got extra aggressive. Now Void's going to be able to come back with the Rampage of themselves, but they whittled away a big amount of that time bank from the Dragons.
Well, somebody died there. I thought maybe it was going to be Dia, but the rest of Valiant came on in to sacrifice somebody else so that Dia can live. They wanted to save Dia. Molly gets caught. Dragons will push on forward. Valiant lose space, but they will at least have the respawns up. This is now not looking great in terms of time for the Dragons, but they actually want to be able to cap. There's a Bob that can delay things further as well from Easy Hunt. This Rampage now from Void has to be pretty big.
Actually big right here too, and from Who Are You to dive into everybody with the dash reset here too. The Bob gets taken out from Easy Hunt, but it doesn't matter to Who Are You, who is nearing that blade. Somebody needs to touch the point real quick. They are going to be able to contest, but it's only going to be Molly here who is going to be able to at least try to poke. The Dragons end up taking that payload to the finish line.
Yeah, Void actually
Look at
missed his
that.
ult completely, but it doesn't matter because they just cap anyway. I think that it was the fear factor of the ultimate, right? It's just like, I'm
The
going to
respect.
rampage here. You are all going to get out of the way, but if you all get out of the way, no one's going to touch the payload. So, yeah, he completely misses, but Valiant missed the payload, so who really wins at the end of the day? I think I'll give that one to Dragons with 14 seconds remaining on the clock as well. So they do cap barely just. A couple of really competitive fights there from the LA Valiant on the C point in particular. I think they won a point on, they won a couple fights on B there as well, but mostly it was C that they were able to push the Dragons back, bleed their ultimate economy down, get the better of Dragons in several cases there as well. There's a couple small skirmishes where Easy Hunt just snipes out Lee Jae-gon. I'm a little concerned that Valiant stayed on the Echo for a long time, though. I don't think Echo really has a lot of value on C. I think Echo's main value is on A and B, where you can sort of abuse the high ground difference. On C, that just doesn't really exist. But I also think as Lee Jae-gon
Okay.
checks out the beach a little bit in Rio.
Taking a break, kind of getting ready for the summer showdown.
Yeah, I bet. That for the Valiant, though, this is a comfort pick for Becky, because we actually saw in a previous series from the Valiant, I think it was the Spark game actually, that Becky started to move away more from the Genji and move towards the Echo. Not necessarily because they believe it's a better pick, but just because it's a better comfort pick specifically for Becky.
You can see how much impact Becky had gotten from the duplicates or from the Junker Queen. But you have to consider the impact that we've been seeing from the Genjis versus the Echoes. We've been seeing a different variation between whether Echo should work, whether the Mei even looking at NA should work here too. But already coming out of the gates, Easy on falling a little bit low. Oh yeah, just specifically London. And they do that a lot too. They were doing that back in the day with contenders. And
that's the thing about, this is why Becky goes towards the Echo and Backbone goes towards the Mei. These are very strong comfort picks where for those players it's kind of part of their specialty, right? But no other team is really going as hard in that direction as they are. This is Dragons now on their A defense. We talked about how hard A can be to cap, so what's Valiant's movement like? Are they going to be trying to just force their way through, brute force under the bridge? Are they going to try and take the bridge? Actually, because they push through now, they actually have the access to the stairs, and because they have that side of the map, you can see that Dragons respect it, they back out.
And that actually could play into Becky's plan here too, because you could have the split from Valiant try to take control over the high ground, because it's going past that first point where half of the team is already on the high ground, so they have the advantage position-wise. See the Disruptor shot coming down to control some of that space here. Becky, though, manages to survive, actually getting out of that situation. Who are you, though? Going to be able to also try to contest. Becky falling low once again. Hopefully he's able to resustain. As you can see, Dia now falling low too. Lip playing off this off angle, though, uninterrupted over to the side.
Dragons, they're low HP, but they're healing up. I mean, they have the plays available. Now they can punish Becky, who's on the big boy flank, and, well, Linksil will be there as well. He at least kills Lip. I don't know that Dragons, or rather that Valiant, can actually use that kill, given Lee Jae-gon, given that Link's died. But with Lee Jae-gon dying, I think both teams are just going to be fairly low numbers. Or fairly low. Yeah, well, Dragons will certainly be on the 4 currently. With Lee Jae-gon still coming back from Swarm, maybe Valiant can have a window here.
You have that opportunity. Linksil will be able to get into the fight faster here. It also has that sound barrier ready. My eyes are on Who Are You and how the impact of this Dragon Blade is going to look like here as well. We go as Xeon falls down from the high ground. Here comes the sound barrier to help enable the rest of Valiant. Lee Jae-gon gets here on time though, and also has a sound barrier used up for the Dragons. But Lip gets taken out, but not before 2 Valiant gets taken out first. That means they won't have the rally, as Molly was the first one to go down. Easy Hunt as well, and Who Are You is looking to clean up the rest of Valiant.
Just Becky alive now. A long-range whip shot. That was pretty cool from Izayaki again.
Wow.
Getting out for style points on a max-range whip shot on a flying hero. LA Valiant, though, they had a small window there where they're trying to use the 5v4 that was generated from Lee Jae-gon going down. But remember, Lee Jae-gon is still a Lucio, still comes back and still saves the day with the sound barrier. And Who Are You pulls blade. It's successful. Links to can't do more. Tries to defend with the sound barrier, but it's not enough. Minute left now with 1 tick gone. Valiant can still cap this one. They have one big fight coming in. This is, I think, the last really good fight from them, because after this, it's just about desperation touches with no resources. Here, they got duplicate, they have Rampage available, and there's no reaching on sound barrier, and Who Are You dead?
Oh, who are you going down here is going to work into the Valiant plans, especially after using that rally. They also still have that Rampage as EasyHunt unleashes the overclock real quick with that railgun. Big Rampage, though, coming in from Void. Does find 2. Does it find Lexa's life, though? Oh, he's still alive. He manages to survive right through that. EasyHunt now finds Void. The Valiant actually coming on top with another big duplicate coming in from Becky now here, too. Gets the Rampage. See ya later. Finds 2. Who are you, Izuyaki? But it's about the space that they needed so that way they could get this point.
My goodness, Izuyaki somehow lives there as well. Huayu just dies to the bleed, and well, because I think he loses his duplicate form, it just looks like Huayu died to nothing, but we'll go down to the duplicate of Rampage, and Valiant, oh my goodness, what a pick from EasyHunt. That rail onto Huayu was everything. I mean, yeah, okay, the rest of the ultimates from Valiant were great. Becky's duplicate into the duplicate of Rampage, fantastic, but they wouldn't have had that opportunity if EasyHunt doesn't open the door for the Valiant to walk through.
And that's the beauty here. That's what you need from EasyHunt. When you don't have the Genji and Becky wants to focus on building up that duplicate, you need EasyHunt to open that up for you. And with Dia still holding onto the Rampage, this is looking great, controlling the next corner here as the rest of the Dragons escape from that side room. Becky is ready to continuously put some of that pressure. He falls super low, though. He falls low. He may be overextended just a bit too much than he expected, as Lip is going to be able to find him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he thought the Dragons were disengaged, but Dragons kind of did a bit of a turn and burn. They walked away, came back in, and realized it was only Becky by himself in that situation, and with no fly available, and Lip just destroys him. So Valiant now are the ones that are actually down. They got good payload movement, but they haven't been able to crack this defense inside this sort of green building that Dragons have holed up, and this is, I think, the main defensible location on B. You see a lot of teams play this roof area. Dia desperately wants to go for this Rampage. Does he go for it, though? It's not the easiest Rampage to hit.
Especially in this side room right here, too. It could be very risky depending on where Dragons could escape to, as Huayu gets taken down here. This is big. Dia now with the Rampage finds 2. Lige gone to answer back with the sound barrier, try to keep everybody from Dragons alive, as Huayu's going to make his way back with the blade from Spawn. Valiant, though, are looking for the fantastic when it comes to controlling not just the payload, but these next corners. They're moving up ahead, but Izuyaki with the rally and Huayu with the blade is something that you don't want to be in the line of sight for if you're the Valiant.
And also the overclock as well, because Valiant just disengaged from. Valiant actually had the player advantage, but they just respect the ultimates coming through from Dragons a little bit too hard here. Sound barriers coming through for Rally.
Oh, sound barrier. Now the rally coming in from Molly as Huayu with the blade. He has the opportunity as Becky gets taken out. Won't even be able to use the duplicate in this situation. And with less than 50 seconds on the clock, 40 seconds and counting down, now the Valiant need to regroup and they need to really take advantage of this next duplicate that Becky has online.
Late death on the link, so that'll cost them more time. That's time that Valiant can't afford. And Huayu at that stage was playing with his eyes closed, quite literally, as we saw in the cam. It's just the frozen cam, we know. But Becky does it 99%. That is pretty tragic, because if Becky had the duplicate available, he actually saved himself from the blade. He can even just copy the Genji. I mean, a duplicate of Genji is still really good in that situation. Void hits 3.
Oh, big Rampage. Yep, hits 3, hits Molly, makes Molly go all the way down, only leaving Lexa for that sustainability for the rest of Valiant. Dia says it's not enough as Izuyaki goes swinging to the sky, finds Dia, finds Molly, and now the rest of the Valiant are trickling down. Overtime taking away with just Becky and their duplicate just holding on for dear life, but the Dragons know it's going to be a GG as they clean up the Valiant and clean up this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's still competitive, right? I mean, I think that just might be the story. That might be the final message written on the tombstone for Valiant in this match. And, you know, what it'll say is LA Valiant, it was competitive, but it wasn't a map win. They can't get any maps here, so at least not so far. Still a 2-0 for the Shanghai Dragons, still match point for the Shanghai Dragons. Again, we expected this. I think LA Valiant expected this. Dragons expected this. Everybody watching knows that this is a pretty large diff in terms of Dragons being right at the top of the table and Valiant being literally at the bottom of the table, right? This is just kind of how it is. I'm glad that Valiant are doing their best to keep it competitive. They're getting kills, they're getting fight wins, they're actually getting points here. They're not getting locked out at full health, which is good to see, but it's not enough to beat the Dragons.
And the Dragons have been on a different level, and that's why we were expecting this, you know, going into the series. Like you mentioned, Dragons up right now and sitting at match point. We still got one more map on our hands, though. You don't want to miss out on it. It's going to be Dorado on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everyone. We just finished wrapping up map number 2 here in our second series of the day between the Dragons versus the Valiant, and the Dragons are looking to end it all, Avril. We still got one more map, though, again, on our hands going into Dorado.
Yeah, it's, again, a pretty expected result. I just don't think there's, too much to say in terms of Valiant currently being 0-2 down. You expect them to be 0-2 down. You expect the Dragons to be this good. They are just unbelievably strong in this meta currently, led by Huayu's Genji. Any meta where Huayu gets to play Genji for the Dragons this year has been phenomenal. Kickoff Clash, Summer Showdown, and then in Mid-Season Madness, no Genji meta, no Huayu. Dragons, that was kind of when they looked their worst, and currently they're back at looking their best. And when Dragons are looking their best, it doesn't seem like anyone can really stand in their way, and certainly not the Valiant today. As we head into map number 3, I actually have a really interesting stat line to share that really kind of maybe adds a bit different perspective on the game so far. On Paraíso specifically, damage-wise, Valiant were on par with Dragons. Dragons did 45,215 damage as a team. LA Valiant did 45,190 damage. The difference between damage of the two teams is only 25. 25 damage. That's like less than a quick melee. Less than a quick melee's worth of damage is the difference between the two teams. And yet, it feels like Dragons are monstrously ahead, right? It feels like Dragons are untouchable. They're invincible. LA Valiant can't do anything. And yet, 25 damage is the difference between the two teams. Dragons have 11 more kills to deaths than the Valiant do. So Valiant's overall team scoreline, 22 kills to 33 deaths. And then Dragons, obviously the opposite, 33 kills to 22 deaths. So they have 33% more final blows while only doing 25 more damage than the Valiant. So what that says to me is that Valiant are very competitive in being able to put the damage in and actually like keeping up stat line wise with the Dragons in terms of the threat levels and the pressure via damage, but they're losing out on a lot of other different areas because they don't have the same focus, the team play might not be as high, obviously, and they don't have the ability to sort of execute on the damage and convert on further kills that the Dragons do. So yeah, you might only be 25 damage behind, but you can't convert the damage into kills the way that Shanghai can.
I'm so glad you bring up that stat point because we saw it on Paraíso, actually, on the defense, the way that the Valiant in the first point were actually able to contest the Dragons, and even on Busan, it wasn't a mollywop or anything like that. They were going back and forth quite a bit. It wasn't like it was quite literally 100-0 or anything. So the Valiant have been able to put down that damage, but it also tells you that the Dragons have had that impact, especially when it comes to cycling through those ults, specifically the survivability that we've been seeing between Void, Horu's Blades, especially those initial pickups, and dealing with Becky and the duplicate as Horu's already taking control over the high ground here.
Yeah, so, I think there's hope for the Valiant yet. There seem to be, certain margins away from finding success, but Dragons can just turn those other margins and make them look like chasms, make them look like giant diffs, when in reality, it's not a disgustingly large diff, but it's enough that the Dragons look much better. Dragons have been a little bit careful here. Lip nearly got caught.
Oh.
In fact, DJ Gon trying to help his team does get caught.
Dia with that shout, gonna be able to at least allow them to find Lee Jae-gon, but Dia pays the price for it with Who Are You capitalizing in that situation. The spawn advantage just go in favor here of the Dragons, so they're just going to be able to stroll this payload by while the Valiant need to give their respect, need to back off if they have the opportunity, but Who Are You is not letting Becky get away so easily. Neither will Molly, and the Valiant just didn't back away in time.
And this is now Who Are You cleaning things up. Valiant out of this fight because Molly is not here. This will be a 4v5 even they do come on in. Lip is getting the damage into even through the dynamite. That must have been a long-range dynamite into Easy Hunt. And Valiant, okay, they understand. They're already setting up for B. They're trying to set up on this high ground. Lip is making this as difficult as possible. In fact, he's almost single-handedly pushing the Valiant off. While that's happening, Dragons continue pushing on through. What is this? Lee Jae-gon's even going to make plays happen now.
Oh! I'm never gonna forget the way you described it here, Avril. Always playing a little too close to the fire. It's always on that border as the shout comes in. Valiant move in with Becky about to get close to that duplicate. See Becky just trying to use that focusing beam here, but they're playing around this next choke point by this wall, and it's so important to be able to get Izayaki as he does, but he costs his own life for it. So they go in for that trade. Now the rest of Valiant don't have the bodies left up alive to contest with that extra pressure that the Becky has been really able to put out.
Yeah, for sure. And Valiant. This time it does feel like a bit more of a difference where Dragons have just won every single fight consecutively. Valiant have gotten a few kills, but not enough to really impact the Dragons' push because Dragons have continued to move the payload through. Even when they have to respawn, by the time the Dragons respawners come back in, or rather by the time Valiant want to fight, Dragons respawners have indeed come back in, and now they will have the earlier ultimates as well, so the snowball does indeed continue. Maybe Becky could be a difference maker here. I mean, you have double Bobs, dueling Bobs in this fight.
See if Becky has that opportunity, just going back and forth to the high ground. As the Bob comes in from Lip, EasyHan won't be able to contest with the Bob themselves because they get taken out by Lip before that Bob comes out.
Oh, Becky
Here comes the
break.
rally now from Valiant. Yeah, Molly no, and now gonna be able to find Lee Jae Gon. Big rampage though, onto 4. The survivability though, as Lexa pops the sound barrier. Can Dia stay alive? Who Are You is a big problem though, as Dia falls low. Dia won't be able to live through that, as Who Are You still uncontested, still unchecked. Even with that rampage, even with the shout here, the Dragons have been dominating and have been kept alive the whole time.
Now the sound barrier will keep them alive further on as well as the Bob comes on through, but to no avail. I believe it gets pushed away, gets booted off, so the cap is going to come on through unimpeded. Still 4 minutes and 45 for the Dragons pushing through on towards C, and Dia's life will be for forfeit here as well, as the Valiant will just lose extra members. I believe he might have gotten a bad respawn, or maybe he just couldn't back out in time. Yeah, Dragons, they're completely unimpeded. So much time as Valiant have not won a single fight. They got some kills in there, but they can't win these fights.
Doesn't look like we were expecting here, especially with the way that Dragons have been dominating the APAC region now. Void is on a tear. Now you have Lip on the high ground. You have them trying to split the Valiant up while they want to try to contest that payload, want to prevent it from going around the corner, but Lexa gets isolated. Who Are You has been having so much impact right now, and the follow-up too off of that shout is going to allow them to still clean up. But yeah, now he's going to be able to heal up though, as Void is going to be the one person for the Dragons to go down, but Who Are You is still cleaning up. He's still pushing all the way to the spawn before. Real quick, flexing. You know what it is here when it comes to Who Are You.
Yeah, it's like 33 HP or something like that, below 50 HP, but just it's flickering up and down as Lee Jae Gon and Easy can keep him alive, right? The healing is just so good from the supports. Bob now to potentially finish the map. Bob looks like he goes a little bit deep here, but I don't think it matters. Valiant, what can they even do against it?
Not much here as well, Avril. You have the trades coming in, but you have nobody from the Valiant touching the point. Who Are You was too busy cleaning everybody up with the blade in the back. There was so much pressure that the Dragons were putting down at the very end. They didn't get stopped at all.
Wow. 322. I actually need to do a bit of checking in it because I believe Seoul versus Chengdu set a new league record in Dorado attacking time in terms of how fast it was, and now I need to check it again to remember. I can't remember what the time was. We'll figure it out. We'll get back to it. I will bring it up before the end of today, but for now it's what we got to know is 322 is unbelievable, right? That's an insanely fast time. That is about one of the fastest times you can get on this map. I mean, that's I don't know if that's quite a world record yet, but it's certainly up there for me.
The fastest I've been able to see, and just the way that Dragons were able to keep up not only their momentum, but their positioning, controlling the next corners. I mean, Who Are You was on another level. Even though Void did sacrifice himself, I believe twice at the very end, it was well worth it there to help Who Are You get put into that position. Right. His blades, too, were insane.
All right, so I did go back and check the current league record for Dorado attack is a 4:17 time back. Seoul versus Chengdu Hunters this stage this year. So this is not quite as good as that. It's about 55 seconds worse, but still very quick. I mean, it's incredibly quick. It's not 4:17, but it's 3:22. You take those. In fact, that's probably 3:22 more than Valiant could afford to give away.
EasyHan actually making some quick adjustments, swapping over to the Bastion before trying to maybe see if he could get something going before making another swap back. This is going to waste some time, and that is definitely going to waste some time for the Valiant there too, as Dia is the first to get taken out by Lip, Who Are You's going to also clean up Molly, now forcing the Valiant to play a lot more passively, but they didn't have EasyHan there in that fight at the very beginning.
I actually think EasyHan playing the Widowmaker, okay, he was trying to go for some snipes. I was going to say maybe it makes a little bit of sense as out of spawn, you can sort of go for those types of plays. Your likely targets end up having to be While Lip and Lee Jae really, unless Izayaki doesn't have shield up. They're going to play the standard here. Becky with beam on deploy. They actually got him below half. Interesting.
That's really nice here too. Izayaki also falls incredibly low here too, but Who Are You controls the front lines as Izayaki gets isolated by Dia, gets taken out. Like, so putting Dia in that position there too with the sound amp speed buff here, and the Valiant are going to be able to actually clear this next corner. Good looks here for the Valiant, but did whittle a good amount of time away from their time bank.
That's pretty impressive from Becky, you know, just finding the opportunity. They put the damage into Void, he cleans up with the focusing beam, and the LA Valiant will start getting some push, and Dragons will come back for a final contest. The payload is not far up enough for the Dragons to give it up, and Dragons have members, and they have a frag, so they have a 5v4 now as well.
Here we go, Becky getting taken out now, won't be able to build into that duplicate. Lip is going to be able to also help take care of Dia. Now this is going to also allow Dragons to reposition onto the high ground right here. Oh, look to your back. Easy headset, and Lip is going to get taken down, and Becky now having the duplicate. You see the Dragons forcibly have to back off, but they were so quick with the disengagement. Really good awareness here from the Dragons.
Dragons are going to fight this one. They're not actually going to back up the entire way, so Lip is just going to have to come through from spawn. Lee Jae got sniped. 99% as well. That is deadly, and Dragons, again, they're committed. They're just going to have to go for this.
Yep, Void died fighting on that point right there too. They didn't have the sound barrier, as you saw Lee Jae being the first one to get picked off right there at the very end, as the Dragons are now going to try to prioritize, maybe trying to get back onto this high ground, but see Lip already getting contested with Lengsa pushing all the way up with Easy on.
Alright, Becky dropped some bags. He did that to Alpha E in the Spark game as well, but alrighty. No, you respect. He's kind of carrying right now. He's doing a lot for the back. Well, actually, Easy Han carried the last fight because he got 2 frags in a row off the back of the rails. That one into Lee Jae was really impactful, right? Kills him at 99. So Valiant making some movements. I mean, if there's a world where Valiant can cap, this is the kind of pacing they need. They got to keep this up, though. They got to really put Dragons, really put them behind, which requires them to win this fight big time, where both teams have got their 5 ultimates. Double spawn ultimates instantly pop, by the way.
Yep, sound barrier going to be used from the Valiant. Lee Jae very patient with his own sound barrier. Just going to wait for the rally here, too. Maybe trying to crawl out.
Lost his copy straight away.
No! Lip finding not just Becky and deleting the duplicate, but now Becky falls incredibly low. Also, too, gets knocked out between Dia and Easy Han from the Valiant, and you can see the Dragons now holding in behind the payload, not even trying to prioritize the high ground real quick. He's like, all right, you're next if you could find it, but Becky still gets taken out by Lee Jae.
Dude, Lip nearly got Lengsa there as well, and unfortunately not clipping the head, but Lengsa did get shot by that rail. How good was that disgustingly powerful shot onto Becky, though? Just gets rid of the Brigida copy. It's still interesting that Becky's going for the Brig copies. You would expect him to go for the Jungle Queen copies, but no, he's going for other copies and losing straight away. Leaves Han dies straight away, and now Void will get 2.
Yep, between the Rampage and Izayaki now going to be able to flame 2 as well. Going to follow up from that Rampage. He said, no, that's for me. Leave it for me. And with that quick little 3K, I also want to shine here. Dia's dying with the Rampage at least for this next fight. But look at this time back now, Avro. It is ticking away. And Becky just waiting for the rest of Valley.
Well, he's a ninja.
He doesn't see him. He doesn't see him. He doesn't.
Oh, my goodness. He's hiding inside the box. Oh, he's
They know. Lip saw it.
And that, by the way, is the worst time for Becky to die, because Valiant were about to push in. And now they might get punished on the exit. They do.
Wow. Calculated right there. The way that they were able to just time that, though, too, in general, just to be able to claim that life. And now Dragons wasting even more time away from the Valiant.
Lips like that's not map geometry. That is not a box. All right, cardboard box doesn't belong there. Playing a little bit of Overwatch prop hunt. I've queued up in those games.
Oh wow, the sound barrier, the aggressive sound barrier from Lee Jae. It does cost Izayaki's life, but they still find Molly, which is great. Here comes the Rampage, so huge right now. Gonna find Lip, Wardu, and Void. Lip gets taken out, Void falling incredibly low. Without Lee Jae, doesn't really have that sustainability here, as the Valiant now have another opportunity to reclaim this high ground and get this payload moving.
And the payload hasn't been moving for some time. It actually rolled back quite a decent amount. So now finally coming to the final bridge. At minimum, Dragons get to fight in this open space now in the courtyard for what could be Valiant's final engage. Less than 1 minute now. No ultimate thinks are possibly dead if he's not careful. Does manage to just hide away inside the bank. In fact, bank is where Valiant want to go now. They're looking like to potentially push through for a full flank. Becky playing extremities.
Lift playing off of this backline though here on the high ground is also going to force Valiant to split their attention between these two high grounds that 4U is also holding with Lee Jae gone. Because you currently see who's going to try to contest Lip here in this situation. Becky's about to get this duplicate as well, and Lexa's going to have that sound barrier.
Yeah, they're definitely now in final fight territory because Valiant had kind of used the last 30 seconds to look around the map, explore the bank a little bit, make a withdrawal maybe, and hopefully they took a lot of money out because they've got to spend big here. They need some ultimates for sure as they were still waiting for Becky and Easy Han. Probably aren't even going to go for this until the OT. Dragons are happy about that. They don't mind. They want to wait till the OT. They want to wait for the Rampage from Void.
No reason for them here as they're going to be able to just wait off to the side, see what Valiant going to do as they touch onto the payload. Force the overtime now as Becky finds Lip. That's a big pick now.
Lip got
Becky
shut down.
with the duplicate into the Junker Queen as well. Here comes the rally. Here comes the sound barrier as Izayaki does pop that rally, but Molly's being a lot more reserved with it. I like this option from the Valiant. Despite the overtime ticking away, they were patient and precise with the way that they were able to time those ultimates.
They got away with everything there. You got all the money out of the bank there. That was a heist. And Valiant now, they're breaking towards Sia. Emote coming through from Becky as he just sits on top of Lip's body. In fact, two of them. That was a brilliant fight from the LA Valiant. And now for the Shanghai Dragons, they actually spent ultimates there as well. Again, Lip got shut down immediately by Becky. So I guess the emote was well earned because Becky kind of rolled Lip in that fight. Lip goes for the overclock. Becky destroys him. And Shanghai Dragons onto the C defense. Still though, Valiant not out of the hot waters just yet. Less than a minute to finish the map. It's not looking great.
They're about to get that Rampage though on the line here, Avril, and Molly does still have that rally. Was very patient with it in that last fight. Didn't burn it out just yet. Here comes Void with the Rampage. Does find 3. Molly answers right back though with the rally too. You can see the Valiant now gonna try to back up just a bit before having to re-engage with their limited time bank. Less than 30 seconds now on the clock.
I think Void got booped as well, but he still managed to just clip a few members. Speaking of clipping members, that will be Dia running on through that, countered by the sound barrier. Izayaki still low, still dead.
Oh, he gets taken out. Lip follow low too and gets taken out as well by Dia and Becky. Now the Valiant have an opportunity, but they traded for their support lineup here too. So Lexa won't be able to build up into that sound barrier for that last fight territory. Now less than 10 seconds. Dia now dying late.
Yeah, this is the problem, is the Valiant lost double support, so they couldn't heal up, like you said, so they couldn't reset properly. Dia, does he come back on a Wrecking Ball? He doesn't know how to play a Wrecking Ball. That's not one of his heroes. He goes towards the Doomfist. That's more likely something that he can play, but just, well, they couldn't touch the point. I don't know if I would count that as a C9. Linksa tried to go for it. He would have died anyway, and Dia is still trying to come back from spawn. I'm fairly certain it makes no difference whether the touch happens there or not. It's not like they were in a winning position. They won't continue the fight. But had they continued the fight, it's like a 90% chance that Dragons kind of just win and clean up. It's Valiant, unfortunately, in the second to last final engagement there. Linksa Molly dead. The rest of Valiant not in a position to reset. Dia dies. Less than 10 seconds remaining. You can't really respawn in time. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's a guaranteed GG for
especially when
those
picks, unfortunately, that were taken out from Valiant were the support lineup. You like we mentioned, didn't have the sustainability at the very end. Would have been great to at least try to build up that sound barrier at the end too, but you were the first one to go out, and then you had less than 10 seconds. It was already that limited time bank that the Dragons took away from the Valiant in that second point before, rather, that Valiant was unable to get that to that second point for quite some time.
Yeah, and I don't think you can be too disappointed with this loss. And, you know, I'm looking at the Valiant cams. They look really calm. And compared to what they were when they lost to Fusion and Guangzhou, where those were map 5s, I mean, they look devastated losing those map 5s. Here, it's like, I can't ask for too much more. You know, got competitive, capped a couple of points, is what it is. And with that, Dragons remain undefeated, 5-0 now. Dia's even smiling. I'm sure they're just working up to playing that Hunters game for Dragons, working up to playing that Soul game. And speaking of working up, I'm sure you worked up a bit of a sweat today because he had the team again on his back. It's going to be player of the match on the Genji. Dominant display the entire way through. Genji, I think, is the most important hero in this meta, even more so than the Junker Queen. And it really shows when players like you get to step into the arena and do this to their opponents.
And it kind of goes down to what we were talking about before when we were isolating the Dragons and the Dynasty for what they've been able to accomplish in this stage. It highlights what good Genji plays do for the team here, and that's why the Shanghai Dragons are dominating right now in a meta like this. And who are you getting enabled not just with the commanding shout, but you could see the confidence when he pushes all the way up. He's controlling so much space between the speed boost too from his Lucio. He's able to get into that position aside from just having to rely on that commanding shout. He's always in the front lines, and he was getting so much impact in those last few games against the Valiant. You could see right here, 31 final blows, 69 eliminations. That's amazing right there, real nice. As ultimate kills, you saw the 9 with the blade, but it was the way that he was also able to use the blade to get those high impact kills, especially when it comes to the support lineup of the Valiant that were caught off guard and were isolated from the rest of the team a few times that we saw.
Yeah, and again, pretty flawless in terms of, and this is a stat line that's not represented here, but I can just tell you, on Dorado, he had the lowest number of deaths across the board for both teams at 2. He only died twice that entire map, if you can believe that, as a Genji player, who's typically going to be found in the front lines. Only died twice. That's actually really impressive. The survivability of the guy as well. I mean, credit to his team. We saw him being on low HP, and Easy Akanejagon just continually keeps him up. But he, to me, on the attacking phase, I mean, A and B was all just who are you, slicing through people with getting multiple resets in a row and really putting the pressure on the Valiant, and that's what makes the difference.
Especially when you have to think about the duplicate as well from the Echo, having to use that with to copy the Jucker Queen that we saw a few times, that high impact. Understand from who are you to understand when he needs to back away and when he needs to actually play for positioning or back away in time so that way he doesn't feed that extra kill to the duplicate. Yep. So really good showcase here from the Dragons. I'm not surprised, of course, Avril, with the way that the Dragons have been performing in the stage.
Yeah, and the final thing to say here is that unfortunately, because Valiant do lose to the Dragons, they are out of contention for the Summer Showdown. They can no longer make the tournament, I think, at this stage. Well, I don't think you can really expect them to beat the Dragons. If they wanted to make the tournament, they would have had to have beaten probably Fusion or Charge, given that those were map 5s and close map 5s. For the Valiant, this was a gargantuan task ahead of them. They would have to go flawless for the rest of the tournament in terms of beating both Dragons and Hunters. Hunters are beatable for them, but the Dragons unfortunately are not, so Valiant are our first team eliminated from contention in day 1 of the final week here. But for the Dragons, the big game for them still awaits. El Clasico happening on Sunday versus Seoul. That is going to be the match of this entire qualifier to watch.
I'm super excited. We still have a lot of amazing matches coming up throughout the weekend, but that's it for this region. There's still a lot more action, though, going down today over in the West. You definitely don't want to miss out on that. But, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this really exciting last week of the Summer Showdown qualifiers. Avril, any last words real quick on what you're expecting for some of the matches that you could expect to see throughout the weekend to get our viewers excited?
And we got a lot of great stuff. Dallas versus San Francisco Shock in the NA region. Gladiators taking on Atlanta as well to see if Glads can make it through. We have the Showdown happening tomorrow between Hangzhou and Guangzhou, who currently on a bit of a streak. El Clasico with Shanghai Seoul coming up as well. As I mentioned, Philly and Hangzhou developing their own rivalry this entire year. That's going to be happening on the final day, so plenty more to go through. But that'll be my final day for this qualifier. So Vicky, you got the long haul coming up ahead of you. Enjoy it. Have fun with it.
I'm glad to be back. It's been a long time, so I'm glad to be back. And of course, that was my first time. That was me able to cast Jotes in real time. So as a spectator, it's different. You know what to look out for. You know what to actually call out. Like you mentioned, the Genji being such a detrimental just pawn in this whole meta, and it's really important to have those isolated picks, whether it be your Sojourn getting that pick, or it is your Genji that's buying in that space and finding the isolated picks off of the Brigida or off of the Sojourn themselves. So it's been a really good time. I'm excited to see how it plays off throughout the rest of the weekend, especially in this last week of the qualifiers to determine which of these teams are going to be moving on to the Summer Showdown tournament. But guys, that's it for us for today. Again, there's a lot more matches underway later today. You definitely don't want to miss out on that, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.